Hello.
Uh,
Thank you for joining us for session number 22 of the Unsung Tales, a one-ring actual play on the happyjacksrpg network. To find all the sessions of this game, you can visit happyjacks.org/unsungtales without the, and to find all the shows on the Happy Jacks network, please visit happyjacks.org. My name is Kimi, and is everything okay?
I can't hear anything through the headphones.
Okay.
But,
well, I see it's bouncing, so I'm just going to keep going until someone else talks, and then I'll fix it. My name is Kimi. I'm your Loremaster / techie for this game. And we are playing with safety tools, just so you know. So we have X cards, we've done lines and veils, so everything that happens in this game, everyone's super safe while we're playing it. Let's go ahead and go around the table. We are down one player tonight. And let's see what is happening. Let's start on this side.
Oh, God. I'm starting? This never happens. Hello, everyone. I'm Kai. I use he, and she pronouns. And I am playing Aerlind of Mithlond, who is so eager to meet the dwarves. It's going to go great.
I didn't know it was me.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Hi, I'm Michelle, and I am playing Liriel of Rivendell. And she is apprehensive about meeting so many dwarves all at once.
And hi, everybody. I'm Kadave. My character is Hannar, son of Bruni, who apparently we're going to meet soon. And that's scary, because I left home a long time ago on purpose.
You can be both.
So off we went into the wide world. Both of us are he, him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll find out how it goes to come home after several decades on the road.
All right. So just a little bit of a recap from last week. We were going, and you had decided that you are going to eventually make it to the Dwarven mines, where you're going to try and find the treasure that this cursed / haunted birdcage that happened, I think, back in like episode 3 or 4.
It was a while ago.
A long time ago. Yeah.
It was just after we had solved the mystery of the missing lumber.
Yeah, it was very early on in this campaign. But you were waylaid. Hannar had a trip to the Shire. You all had a lovely adventure, or a visit to Mithlond, where you said goodbye to Celebrimbor's lost love, and he set sail, and then you made your way back up, and what else happened?
I mean, we kind of met up. We fought the...
We fought the horrible man that
While you were I'm like, you were at the ruins. Yes.
We did something in the
You
middle.
absolutely. So it's been a long week. Yes. And while you were at your ruins, one of the traps that Runa had set weeks before sprung in the middle of the night, catching the beast that had been following you, kind of the man bat. And you had a combat with it, and it left with some rather dire message about you still being doomed regardless of your blessings. So giving the impression that it was aware at least of the gifts you had been given recently. And but you did finally take at least that thing out of the world. And
There can't be many more of those.
Can't be a problem or a foreboding anything.
nah, it's totally...
You joined
totally
us just
fine.
in time.
Yeah.
For everything to be great.
Yes. So you started then on your trip up to, you decided you were going to stop. It's a rather long journey straight up to the old Dwarven mines. So you decided that you were going to take a breath and visit Hannar's home in the Blue Mountains, which nothing will go wrong there at all. It's totally, totally fine. So, Hannar, why don't you kind of recount for us a bit of why did you leave home?
Well, I'm putting into the world of Middle-earth that all dwarves go through a trade skill program, right? As growing up, you spend time through an apprenticeship and you spend time in classes learning how to make things and create and craft, as befits a good dwarf. But Hannar was terrible at it. Metalwork was just not a thing that he could do. He keeps trying, and it would just look ugly. It would look like if I tried to do something with metal in real life. So that's not my jam. But he eventually just got tired of not moving on to the next phase of apprenticeship, right? Just there's only so many times you can get passed over before you have to find your own way and figure out something else to do. Contrary to what his family wanted, who ran a small family forge smithy, he packed up his stuff and left town to try and find some other path in life, which makes him one of the few overland dwarves that spends most of his time above ground and out amongst everyone else and all the other cultures of Middle-earth, which is sort of where he became the wandering merchant / treasure hunter. I mean, officially, mechanically speaking, he's a treasure hunter. It's more like he likes to find curiosities and package up things that are interesting and send them home. That's kind of how he hunts for stuff, and he sends them back home to just be like, look at this awesome thing I found. Maybe you could do a design with this, or that's kind of his connection that he's been sending back home over the years. But it's been a long time since he's been home. I mean, the closest he got was earlier in this campaign when he came north, and I don't think he came all the way here, probably to one of the more...
No, he came,
came here?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's a large...
city.
Yeah, it's a city. And you met with Philip Bouldersong and Gale Sharpstone. And those were the people, or the dwarves, who lent you aid with cutting open the pearl and finding the Palantir.
Right.
But I think we did specify that you were not visiting family during that time.
I kind of snuck in here quietly, and so I didn't even mention the name when I got in trouble with the old dwarf stone singer. Yeah. Because I didn't use my family name when I approached.
Yes.
I was trying to keep it on the down low.
Seemed rather rude.
Yeah. And hopefully he hasn't decided to wander off and be like, hey, look at who I saw a couple of weeks ago. That would be a problem. So we'll see.
We'll see. It's fine.
I'm sure it's all going to be fine.
Right. Dwarves are known for not holding a grudge.
Oh, yeah. No, not at all. Very easygoing folks.
Yeah.
No one in Middle-earth ever holds any grudges.
Only for thousands of years.
The entire age of the world. It's fine.
All right. So at the very conclusion of last week's session, you'd finished your journey and you're approaching the home of the dwarves of the Blue Mountains. This is not a long ancestral home for the dwarves that are there. There have been dwarves in the Blue Mountains since creation, but this is a much newer settlement. So after the fall of Khazad-dûm, the people came and many of them resettled the Blue Mountains, which is where your dwarven city was built. It is...
So,
yes,
it's an entirely new city. It's not like an old ruin that they went and
probably
found.
A bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, they knew that there had been dwarves here. Some of the dwarves from that the ancient families of Khazad-dûm actually probably could trace their origins to elves that fled the Blue Mountains originally. So I would guess there was probably many large caverns and things like that were... It was destroyed by, like, basically the rise of the ocean after the defeat of Morgoth in another age, long ago. Basically, the actual Earth was destroyed, and, like, the movement of the continents pushed back the ocean, similar to, like, a giant tidal wave, and it rushed back in, and covered and sank or and filled the Blue Mountains. So that's where that's what happened to the dwarven civilizations prior. That was like 6,000 years ago, ish. So
it's had a minute to drain.
It's all drained at a time, and it's been a while too. So it like dwarves have had time to come back in. It is not the splendor of ages past. It's also worth noting for super Tolkien nerds that the dwarves that were here before were not of Durin's folk. So they were actually separate clans from Durin's folk that came back and have resettled the place. So might have been different aesthetics anyway, so who knows? But so while there are like there's a lot of space, many caverns, lots of places, it's all kind of new construction. So you get the vibe of like visiting Washington, D.C. versus visiting London is kind of how it goes. So there are things that look really amazing and beautiful, and some of it looks like prefab, like put together.
Like, we just need to have a house.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of like that, based on what it was. And because the dwarves were fleeing Khazad-dûm after the Balrog, they didn't take a whole lot of super nice stuff with them, and they are fairly impoverished, especially when compared with the riches and the splendor of their previous arrangements. So it's like creating as much as they can from less. So, yeah. So there's probably a bit of embarrassment about that. There's pride in like, we've survived, we've done this, we've built it from nothing. But there's also a little bit of like,
this whole hall isn't made of the most beautiful marble. And
yeah, exactly. So there's probably a lot of
gold everywhere.
Yeah. So there's probably a lot of there are probably some more wealthy families that have very ostentatious entries. When we went and visited Felix's home in that previous episode, he had a very grand entryway, but he was one of the like celebrated age-old song singers, so he probably has a lot to throw around. And then there's probably some who are newer or not and stuff like that. So your family, your father is from a long line of smiths, basically. So they are not the miners, but once they get the ore, and once it is purified ore, they are able to make just like incredible like works out of it. So this is kind of the legacy of your family, with your mother and your many, many brothers and sisters. So, which we're going to get to know tonight. It's
Sure.
Great.
I also like the idea that I lost the helmet I left home with,
Right.
and now I have a different helmet that somebody else made.
Made by someone in Bree.
Right.
Yeah.
By unknown Smith.
Human Smith.
That's just trying to look dwarvenish.
Rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's going to be great.
Did you have a store? Like, I remember it was like like a family helm, or was it just made?
It wasn't the helm. It was just made by.
Okay.
I mean.
It was made by your father.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't like an heirloom.
No.
But when you show up, it sort of looks like the nice thing he gave you has been replaced with something that is really not as nice at all.
Right. For sure.
All right. That's going to go over. Thank you for reminding me of that detail.
You're welcome.
Mwah.
Well, your shield is like remade and
Well, the field's super fancied up, but elven-y.
yeah. You went far afield with your equipment.
Yeah, so like Cliff Notes version, if you watch Lord of the Rings, dwarves and elves don't really like each other.
What?
Rewind many, many thousands of years. That is because the dwarves were helping a very specific, very powerful elf king create this beautiful work with some very beautiful gems called the Silmarils. Didn't work out well. Ended up in a big war, and the dwarves basically like raised an entire kingdom of elves. Not great. So yeah, the sacking of Doriath still lives large in elven memory. Some of whom actually remember it, or not remember it, but remember when it happened and that they were living parallel somewhere else because the people of Doriath didn't make it. Good job, dwarves. Anyway.
If you're gonna go to war, you do it right.
Yeah. So
A
since
dwarven
then,
motto.
and because of the stories of those that have been handed down through the different groups. The dwarves think that they were wronged. The elves think that they were wronged. It's a whole hot mess. So there's actually very legitimate like roots for this tree of hate that has grown between the two peoples. And while individuals have like kind of gotten past it at times, it's a deep-seated dislike between the people. So anyway.
Yeah.
No problem. Showing up with two dwarves or two elves to a dwarven stronghold wearing a human-made helm instead of your dad's gift. We're going. It's going to be a great night.
What could possibly go right?
Great night.
Elven torque, elven modifications to your shield.
Yeah. Only the torch is the same.
Yeah.
That's right.
But even
And
that's
the
been
axe.
touched by
A ghost.
a ghost human.
Yeah, but ghost human, okay. Right?
I don't know if your dad's going to be able to like sense that.
Yeah, that's.
So, yeah.
And if he does sense that, that's freaky. Right?
Maybe you get your weird sense from your dad.
Who knows which side of the family that little bit of
Yeah.
magic passed down through?
So as you're approaching, there are kind of settlements on the outside. I know what the Rings of Power show, but it's not super easy to grow food in a cave. Like there's mushrooms, like delicacies, amazing things, but there are also some like more normal like crops that are grown outside of the caves, kind of around the entrance. And there is like a small sort of like not homes necessarily. Most of the dwarves don't fully live out there, but there are structures to help like store some of the grains and barns and such things like that. So they are out here. They're generally still made of stone more than they are made of wood or things like that. So it's generally kind of the vibe of like the old English homes that have like thatch roofs and stone walls that have been built up. And then like very clearly there's a link between the stone of these smaller structures as you're kind of approaching the entrance and then like looking up at the blue mountains that are rising up and you're like, oh, that's where all this stone came from. So most of these are just storehouses and just more utility type shelters.
I wonder if it's looked down upon to be a surface farmer or if it's like, oh no, they're pretty brave. They go out and farm, like, I don't know which way socially that would go.
I don't think dwarves they don't fear being on the surface.
It's a craft.
Yeah, it's a craft. And I think if an elf decided to like peace out and not live in any dwarven city, looking at you, Hannar, like that's sort of weird. But having a purposeful task is something that dwarves very much respect.
Right.
So the fact that they are raising animals that probably don't do well underground, things like that are seen as like that's an important function. Now, are they as revered as, stone singers or incredible smiths?
Right.
Probably not. But, they're on the level of like, hey.
We like to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
Sure.
I think as we get to those buildings, Aerlind starts asking so many questions.
Okay.
You've seen him in his like scholarly mode where he's mostly writing notes though. It's not pointed at you. But he begins to ask everything from like, so how long has your family been here? And like it becomes a little bit clear that this is like he's building a scholarly report.
Oh, sure.
As to where we are and what's going on here, because he has never been to a dwarven city ever in all of his travels.
All right.
And when we see the farmhouses, he looks around kind of perplexed. Do your people live here? Are these buildings for your home, or is this another settlement?
No, it's connected. Some will live out here at the far reaches. They don't want to travel so far daily to come out and tend to the stock in the fields. But some, as we get closer, you'll see they have less home type buildings and more just service buildings, and they will go back into the mountain
Fascinating.
at night.
Goes back to writing while walking, which is not advised. And proceeds to grill you about, what is this building for? What is this? And
Oh,
it's
sure.
so
Yeah, yeah.
just, it's that little scholarly spark that's turned into a whole raging flame again.
I think Hannar's more on the lookout for the farmers as we get closer. Like, if people are out. I've kind of lost track of, is it spring?
Yeah, it's like springtime because we did Yule, which was through the
Right.
winter season. So it was like early spring. So it's probably getting to like mid-spring now.
Okay. So there's actually not a ton of farmers out. Like, things have been planted
Yeah.
if it's mid-spring. They'll come out and obviously inspect and take care of problems, but
The livestock. And
well, yeah, the farmers that keep livestock, they're working every day out here, but the growers are more like, we've kind of done our big 3 weeks of work.
Put our feet
Now,
up.
now we just have to make sure that things stay irrigated and that kind of jazz. And for those of you out there watching at home, I'm not saying that farmers just take the spring off after they're done. I know it's constant work, but it's not necessarily like out in the field all the time. You have to let things grow a while.
Yeah.
That kind of a deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you go through these. There's not a lot like of dwarves of people out here. There are also, this is kind of where the roads that humans, if they come this way or if they do want to do some trade with the dwarves or things like that, these are the roads that they take. So it wouldn't be completely odd to see, a species other than dwarves riding these paths. Seeing a dwarf in kind of like elven fashion riding with two elves, like if someone were to look like close enough to like really notice that that's what this was,
Sure.
you would get second glances a bit. But for the most part, most people probably don't even like really look up on the road at this point because it is between like a lot of like busy areas. So there are people who take these roads fairly often.
And like trade.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Especially with Bree. There's not a ton of trade between Mithlond and the dwarves, obviously, but Bree definitely, when they want some super fancy stuff, and they're not going to the elves, they want the more Art Deco vibe instead of Art Nouveau, then they go to the dwarf.
Also, most of our craftsmen have left,
Yeah.
and they don't know where Rivendell is.
Accurate. But for Mithlond, I meant them. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, it's not, the dwarves aren't, or the elves are not going to be like, hey, like, here's a beautiful axe that I made you for chopping down wood. Like,
Nope.
if they want nice armor and stuff, most of the time it's probably the dwarves, unless, like, they have their own smiths make it. So as you approach, it's hard to kind of see at first, actually. It looks like you're riding towards the side of a very steep mountain. There's a bit that kind of looks like a cliff. It goes up probably around 100 feet. And, but it's very nondescript. There's also bits that are more sloping, like a little bit more gently sloping, enough that there's trees and stuff growing on this. This isn't like walking up to, the cliffs of Dover or something like that. It's like there's a little bit. And then as you get closer, you kind of, mostly it's the roads that kind of give away the position of the entrance, because you realize that there's this road that goes, there's these three roads, two that run kind of parallel to the mountains, and then the one that you're kind of approaching on, which is a little bit more from the east, and they all kind of meet in this one spot. So your eyes kind of are naturally drawn to that spot, and then you notice that there is like what looks sort of like a cave entrance, which is, very sort of nondescript. It looks big enough that you could walk, not like draft horses through, but definitely like regular sized horses or ponies definitely could probably make their way through. And there just seems to be a lot of like, you can tell the road has been ridden a lot in that little area right there. So
Well, it's probably like out to the crossroads, it's probably paved too. Like it's not just a dirt road. I wouldn't think.
No, it is for this part.
Okay.
Yeah. As you kind of guide the way in, Hannar, this cave ends up being sort of like more like a covered porch, like natural. So as you enter there for like a few feet, if you hadn't been really looking for it, it would have just kind of looked like a cave. But as you go in, then you realize you hear the hooves of your horses hit like the clop clop. And it is very nicely. It's like almost a mosaic, but of just geometric shapes. It doesn't seem to really like be making a specific picture, but it's many different types of stone, all from these mountains, it seems, all in this beautiful pattern on the floor. Kind of similar to some of the beautiful geometric mosaics you see in like Islamic temples and things like that don't depict specific people or things, but are just stunning to look at and draw your eye a very specific direction. And it all kind of like draws your eye to a beautifully carved door that seems to be made of just solid stone. And it's like a double door. It's large, kind of like rectangular shapes. And they fit together so perfectly. Like it looks like if you like went up to it, it almost would appear to be one solid piece. But you can kind of tell there's a few places where like the oil of people's hands over the centuries have kind of built up. So it's just a little bit darker, like where people have pushed on it and things like that. Like when you go, so you can see sometimes on old stairways, like where people's feet have kind of worn away. That's the only thing that kind of gives away that this might be two pieces, because they are so perfectly carved that they fit together perfectly. Sorry, I said metal on the stone, because the oils on like marble and stuff build up.
Yeah.
Even if you clean them, it just is a thing that happens with the stone.
Because it absorbs into the stone.
Exactly. Yeah.
As we're approaching, I just kind of move a little closer to Hannar. I'm not comfortable.
I think Hannar moves closer to you too. He's probably like, yeah, maybe everybody just be cool.
Yeah.
Aerlin's still walking and writing, and his very keen natural sense of direction, I'm shaking my head for listeners at home, guides him closer to a wall.
Yeah. That's right. Both of you, neither one of you ride. So you're the only one on the back of your pony, Hannar.
Well, once we get up to the door, I'd dismount,
Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah.
And you're at the door.
All right. He walks up to the door. There's probably a very slight pattern that you have to slide the door to make it then hinge open. So it's like it doesn't take a lot of strength, but if you just came up and pushed on it, it won't open. You have to, that's why there's sort of these marks on it, because people have to apply pressure and sort of slide it a little to the right and then back and then a little to the right and then back to the left a little bit, and then it'll finally open. So it's sort of like a little puzzle thing. Like I don't think this isn't enchanted like the door at Moria, right?
Yeah.
It's not that, but it's still a mechanical lock sort of thing that only a friend would know how to open the door. So, and I'm thinking that each door would be big enough for a horse to go through without opening both.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah. So he'll go up and he'll put his hand on the door and push and kind of manipulate the stone a little bit. And it doesn't grind at all. Like it's just silent as it moves. And then he pushes on the door and it swings back flush into the side. And then I don't know what's on the other side yet.
So as you go through and you open it, much to the surprise, there's two dwarven sentries like on the inside, because they figure the door itself is a
Right.
pretty good deterrent. If you suddenly hear someone like banging around on the other side, it's like, obviously they don't know the secret code, they can't get in, so then they'll pay attention. So they kind of look up when you walk through, and then you see them actually like kind of bring up their swords. Like one of them's holding a spear, one of them's holding an axe. You kind of see them like tense up and like bring their, not pointing at you, but the minute they see that you're dressed very strangely and you're in the company of two elves, they're not exactly sure what to do.
Sure.
Because you're obviously an elf, or you're obviously dwarf, but elves, while it's not at this point like open warfare, it's dislike.
It's not just, hey, come on in, welcome.
Yeah, it's not great.
Sure.
So you kind of see them making eyes at each other and like,
Hello. Please be at ease. We're just traveling here. My family is in residence. I have spent many years traveling the roads and gathering artifacts and important things, and these are my traveling companions. They're safe.
well, state your name and be done with it, dwarf.
I am Hannar, son of Bruni.
And that name, they kind of relax a little. Very well. Well, welcome home, Hannar, son of Bruni, and companions.
Microphone.
You know what? I don't think Hannar would do an introduction at the gate.
No?
No.
Oh, okay, you just ride through?
Yeah. I'd just be
Okay.
like, cool, all right. And he leads the
Okay.
pony and like, come
Aerlind's
come on.
following Hannar's lead too.
Okay.
Normally he's the first one to be like, "Hello, I'm Aerlind of Mithlond."
Yeah.
But he's just like, "Nope, okay, this is what we're doing."
Okay. So we're retconning that and that didn't happen.
No. Just for no further introduction.
No, I'm not going to introduce by name.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But
I'm
you
gonna
still
leave it
did.
there.
Okay, yeah.
I know it's moderately rude, and I'm not.
I don't think I don't think that comes off as rude to them. I think
Sure.
you not giving your full name was very rude, and elves are elves. Who cares what
Fair
their
enough.
names are?
Okay. All right.
Like once you said like your family name and that you belong here, that kind of settled the deal for them, and now they're just a little bit like,
How strange.
yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure there'll be talk about like, oh, you know that. Look at
Hannar.
that house had elves come to visit.
Look what the cat dragged
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
How bizarre.
Yeah, and speaking Elvish, like yeah,
Yep.
Right.
good job.
Yep. I know.
Okay. And so they do nothing. But as you, there's like a stable right kind of near the entrance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where most of like they're fairly large. They're kind of carved back into the mountainside and around a little bit. So while there's like the main street that goes in, and then the road splits to kind of to two separate pathways that hug the sides of the cavern. These kind of go, and you can kind of assume they're carved in behind the houses and the shops that are along the opening of the cavern. So they're deceptively large, and they fit a large number of ponies in them. Gets kind of short, so like you might not want to put like a bunch of normal horses in there, like a few maybe near the front. But that's where a lot of
Or you know,
Yeah.
you wouldn't want to stable them there for a long time.
no.
Like
Oh.
a short visit is
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Well, and there are dwarves that live here that have
Yeah.
their ponies stabled there, and you'd be amazed at some of the stables in like medieval cities.
Oh, sure.
But if they're going to be there for any like long period of time, generally they'll have them housed outside into the pastures and stuff like that. But anyway, so you were able to stable your pony if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I take my pack and
Yeah. You get lots of strange looks. Are you going? Would you give them? I don't want to like RP this a lot. Would you give them your family name, or would you just pay them?
I would just pay
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah, it's something you have. It's fine.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think for the rest of the walk, I think Hannar pulls out his axe and starts just sort of using it as a walking stick,
Okay.
right? Like holding the top of the blade and
Mhm.
kind of keeping that out front. to
Like-
make that be the first impression
Okay. That makes sense.
a little bit.
Not in a threatening way, but more in
No, just a casual.
I'm a
I have
I'm
a
a
large
dwarf.
axe and I'm a dwarf. Yeah, like
Okay.
I carry this somehow. Yeah. With a pack on and a shield on his back, and because he's not like walking in there like I'm ready for fighting.
No, yeah. Interesting. Okay.
I think picking up the vibe too, Aerlind puts the book away. And is gonna just try and like flank with Liriel and just be like, yeah, we're cool. We're with this guy.
It's all
him.
good.
But also does keep on like bowing in formal greeting whenever anyone walks by. We're cool, but also he's a giant nerd.
Yeah.
Liriel's just like looking around. So they live most of their lives indoors.
Well, yes, on this side of the doors, yes.
Oh,
No sunlight.
Well, when we go out,
Well,
but
of course.
no, not in general.
Well, you do notice lots of torchlight and things like
Yeah.
that, but there are actually bits of sunlight that come through.
Okay.
So they're like
Like some
pinholes,
channels,
yeah, like that have been drilled through the mountain and let in these shafts of sunlight, kind of usually pointed at very specific points. You also notice that there's a lot of like very finely worked metal that works kind of similar to how the Victorians used mirrors to spread light from candles, that are kind of spreading the sunlight and spreading the torchlight around. So it actually is very like illuminated in here. It does not have kind of a dark like feel to it. There's this strange mix of like this bright, what we know today is like blue light from sun, mingled with like the warmth of light from different fire sources. And it seems like also like specifically a lot of times in like higher places, there are like crystals, like large size crystals, to kind of spread the light, to kind of like almost like lanterns kind of diffuse and spread light out, in conjunction also with some of them have these like faceted, like multi-faced, they're not mirrors because it's very fine, like silver. Some of it may be mithril, but not a lot of it, because that would be worth probably more than this entire cavern. Like spreading that light out. So it's not quite like walking through a city in the middle of the day, but it feels like it would maybe in like the golden hour before the sun goes down. So it's kind of surprising, but it definitely feels strange to elves because it's like twilight constantly. You like can't imagine like living like as beautiful as that is, like that's a lot. And the streets are like beautifully, like perfectly smooth, just carved straight out of the sides of the mountain. In front of like finer houses, it's like sometimes you see similar to the mosaic work where then when you walked in, there's also railings and because like if you look on one side, you look like down and there's more levels below and you can kind of look up and see other levels above, kind of like in a kind of a step formation. So there's not the kind of feel of like, oh, like down below, like, oh, they have no light. It's very much designed so that it's spaced equally and the light reaches everything as much as possible. So it's very like it's engineered very specifically. And whether that was dwarves of ancient times or modern dwarves or a little bit of both, who knows?
It's all about city planning.
Yeah.
It's not organic growth for dwarves.
No, not at all. There's a lot of very specific, very clear angles cut, and everything is made and designed a very specific way.
I imagine it's also surprisingly fresh air in here. Like it doesn't feel like I'm in a cave with a bunch of fires burning and it's very claustrophobic and close. It's fairly well ventilated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through probably more carved channels that we can't see that are bringing in, up near the top of the mountain where the wind hits it.
At the right angle.
Yeah.
For the right, yep.
Well, and like dwarves pick places in mountains that have like thermal channels that can clear things out, that keep things warm, that keep, bring in sources of water. So there's you can actually hear among the bustle, you can actually hear the sound of flowing water. You don't necessarily see it from where you are at this moment, but there's a bubbling brook somewhere nearby, or a fountain. That
actually gives me some comfort.
Yeah. So there's something nearby. So it does give like alive and bustling, honestly, in a very different way than even the elven cities where you've spent time. While those are sort of like in stasis and slight decline as their populations leave, even the beautiful ones like Lothlorien, like they know their time is at an end. So they're still maintaining everything. They still make lovely things, but they're looking somewhere else. These dwarves are still focused on making this better constantly for what is to come.
Different permanent Twilight.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a place that sees a future for themselves and is working for it. So it almost in some ways feels much more alive than some of the elven cities that you've been to.
I think there's probably even like younger dwarf children that are like they have chores, and one of the chores is like polishing the road out front of the house and all of that stuff because it keeps it reflective, and you don't want to have scuffed up walkway. That would be terrible. So like you see a lot of industry going on, even though we're not like in a forge or in
right.
There's a lot of people working about their homes.
Yeah. A big variety of ages. There's very, very young dwarves to very, very old dwarves and everything in between. There's
What's the lifespan of dwarves?
yeah, it's a little longer than humans. So it definitely not anywhere near elves, but it's generally, didn't we say it was?
I thought it was like 300.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's in the
around
like
there. A few
shy of 400, I think.
Yeah. So longer than hobbits.
Shorter than
much
elves.
shorter than, I mean, like everything's much shorter than elves.
You
but-
can see Aerlind trying to do the math as to how old these children are, because he's got hobbit children sussed.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
But dwarves now, he's just like, oh no, these are new children. I still don't understand children, and these ones are a different size.
And almost like a reflection of what happened when Hannar was walking around the Shire with Candy. You have a slowly growing pack of young dwarves who are kind of like, they're not following you with enthusiasm, like Hannar with the candy, but they're like, elves, there's elves. Did you see that? I think they're elves.
The Whisper Squad.
Yeah, and like, it's not a friendly vibe from them. They're super curious, but also like a little bit like, oh, like, so they're not sure what to do. It's like when kids see something that's a little dangerous and they're like daring each other to go near it. And they're all just like, eh. Yeah, but they're so it's very much that vibe. Like everybody knows they shouldn't be doing it. And everyone's so curious that they're kind of brave about it, but not close enough to actually get close enough to like be addressed or to talk to you or in any way.
Aerlind still smiles at them and bows.
Yeah.
I think because I've traveled so much and Liriel has been around children and everything like that, a lot more than Aerlind. I've been around human children. I've been around, I just like turn around and I look at them and I go, boo.
They scatter like in true fear. A couple of them probably scream a little and like run. Yeah. So they
Barely contained laughter, like slightly watery eyes, just like, oh my goodness.
No, I think Hannar just actually laughs. Like, is like, as soon as they all scatter, he's just like, it'll be easier to walk then.
I had no idea it would be so vast.
Well, there are many of us.
They have to put them somewhere.
True, but I never pictured it. I don't know how else to describe it. Just, it's enormous.
And it gets bigger every year.
Oh,
We have quite a lot of mountain left.
true enough.
True.
I suppose someday we'll run out. Interesting thought.
Mm-hmm. And your keen elf eyes probably see like there are places that have still not been repopulated. So there's some flat areas like very high or like way down low that it seems like they started at like earth level and then have been going up and down and building out from there. So it's clear it's been a number of generations since this place has been repopulated, but they've got a ways to go before they match even the dwarves of old in this place. Yeah. So as you are walking, what are some of the things, Hannar, as you're walking through that make you like those things about home and being in like the place you grew up? I feel like this because I drove through my home cities today too. It's like, oh, that thing. Oh, that's that now. Okay, that's a bank now. Okay, that's right. Like whatever. Like you haven't been here in quite some time. So what things feel the same and what things feel very different and make you like really bring home to you how you've been gone for so long?
I think first off, it smells like home. Mm-hmm. Just there's not a lot of dwarven cooking outside of the mountain. There's not the same use of ingredients and spices in the same way, and the fact that there's bakeries and things that are down here making stuff. And well, like I said, it's pretty well ventilated. Like those smells linger a while. So I think the first thing is that breath in and know like, oh, okay, this smells like my house. And then there's that moment of like, oh, does it smell like this to everybody that comes here for the first time? Like that slight worry, like, oh, is it offensive to elves? I don't know. Oh, okay. Well, they'll tell me if it's really bad, I guess. But then I think probably one of the rare times you haven't seen Hannar squinting a little bit, where he's just sort of, his face relaxes a little, you know, some of the wrinkles here in the T area kind of relax a bit, and he's kind of looking around. I think you see him looking specifically at specific homes. Like, is there going to be somebody there that he knows, or have they moved, or are they still there? You know, looking for, there's got to be restaurants and you know, businesses and things. So he's probably looking for, is that still a place? You know, because he was here through adolescence into young adulthood. It wasn't like he left as a child and only has tiny child memories. So I think that's kind of the stuff he's looking for more than anything. Is like are the same people in the same places. A little bit out of fear, and then a little bit out of like actual curiosity. Like, oh, is that restaurant still there? Is that pub still there? Are they still making the same beer, or did they change the recipe? Is there, you know, did somebody come up with a new barley, or who knows? You know, that kind of a thing.
Now you can take one of two routes to your house. Are you taking the route that goes by your family's shop or the other route?
I guess it kind of depends on what time of day it is.
What time of day do you want it to be? Like, I mean, you journeyed up here, so I'd say that you probably got nearby at least around nightfall.
Right.
So if you would have gotten up right away and gone straight in,
it's like, probably mid-morning, kind of after we hiked through the fields and all that. Okay. I think he'd probably go to the shop before he went to the house. Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So we're going to have Runa actually with you for this part.
Okay.
I completely forgot the side thing I've planned for her. So I have a thing planned. So Runa's riding and came in, and her horse is stabled with yours.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah. She's a little more quiet than usual, but she's fine. And
I'm sure she's probably like, I've never climbed the inside of my.
Oh no! Yep.
Yeah, she sees those tiered living levels, and it's just like, oh, like
full the pressure climb up the vents with
Yeah,
the
oh, yeah.
uh-huh.
Free climbing. Yeah.
Free climbing the vents.
Yeah. Oh,
Where does
man.
this tunnel lead?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. We're gonna start off actually. I think you're going to first walk by the shop of Felix.
Oh, okay.
Would that feel like right to you? Would you maybe stop in? Because you did promise to bring him news of what you did with the stone.
I did.
Or would you feel like you'd go straight home? Like first?
I feel like Hannar would want to go home. Like,
Okay.
I think he just look. It's not going to be great, but he has to get it done.
Okay.
And
Rip the
he's like,
Band-Aid off.
I'm this far. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
put it off any longer. Like, I'll come back, but yeah.
Okay. We're gonna say that as you're walking in, like Runa asks, she's like, I have something I really need to do. Is there like a dwarven like metalsmith or jeweler that you trust?
Of course.
Oh, Kimi.
I know. So you're gonna give her the information for Gale Sharpstone.
Yeah.
She's the one who
It's. I would check with her. Like,
Okay.
it's not dangerous, right? Whatever.
she gives you that grin of Samantha's, which is like
Like,
maybe I don't know.
sure. I'll take that. Like,
Okay.
if they, maybe I don't know. I'm like, just please be kind. I involved
course.
her in the finding of the Palantir, so there was enough danger already.
I'm sure that the Palantir is much more dangerous than what I'm
Right.
going to bring. That's my best Samantha impression. Sorry.
I'm just saying, like, that's what we have to go with. Like,
Okay.
just try and be gentle.
Of course.
I
Beautiful,
think
flips her beautiful red hair. And
Hannar would probably write out a note.
okay.
Like, hi, this is a friend of mine. Your work is impeccable. Hopefully you can help them with their problem.
Yeah. And Runa exits his session. I think Kai might know what's happening, but it's fine.
Been concerned about this for many, many sessions.
Yeah.
Pick up a random ring, they said. It'll be
It'd
fine, they said.
What could happen picking up an obviously magical ring in Middle Earth? Like, who knows? I mean,
Magical rings in Middle Earth?
what?
It's really off-brand.
Yeah.
Never
Especially when, like, the great elven smith of old is like, that's an interesting ring.
Yep.
All right, peace out, Middle Earth. I'm off. Yeah. So anyway, so Runa goes off and with this map, kind of wandering, drawing a lot of attention. But
Sure.
yeah, but humans and dwarves is a little less. Like,
Yeah, there's not a lot.
yeah,
of
there's
tension
not
there.
there's not as much animosity. So they're off.
Especially because she's of a fairly significant family in Bree.
Yeah.
That's a primary trading partner for here, so it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be fine. Don't worry. So, and then you continue on to your home. So then, yeah, we're going to have you, are you going to go?
I think if it's morning, I'd probably go to the shop first.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's where the work is.
Yeah.
People would be there. I know I can go stop there, and then I can always go to the house, or we can just leave if this goes really
Okay.
badly.
That'll be
see.
great. So yeah, you're walking, and the two of you specifically see, like you hear kind of this ring of hammers. And it's something that is very common in this place. And it's like one of the interesting things is like, depending on the anvil and depending on the metal they're working and things like that, it almost is something that, especially because they're a little bit farther away, they're spread out all through this cavern. It's almost like a percussion instrument, where it sounds more like a xylophone's too high pitched, but like I forget what the name of the low alternative to that is. But there's an instrument that's like
Yeah.
the deep sound. That's a xylophone type instrument. And
Like a marimba.
That's more tinny.
yeah, it's used for orchestration.
Yeah.
And my
The
father-
lower register is
Yeah.
the bass xylophone.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. And like, yeah, I'll think of it like in 20 minutes. I'll be like, "Ah," and then, But anyway, so that's kind of what it sounds like, except instead of having it all come from one source, it's like echoing kind of slightly from everywhere. And it's something that you almost like you notice really strongly when you first enter, and then it kind of becomes part of like the sounds of the place. But when you start walking towards it, you hear very clearly this like clear ringing sounds. And it sounds different even than like the elven smiths that you've been near, and definitely different than any of the human smiths you've been near in Bree or something. There's like an interesting like tone to it that just like rings for longer. And it might be like the metals that they use for the anvils or what it is. It just like, it's almost as if the earth is singing, back with these smiths. Like it's just this very beautiful, interesting tone.
Tell me if I'm completely off base here, but I think maybe smiths also sing, like,
Oh yeah.
like as they're working, that kind of flows into the creation
Yeah, absolutely.
kind of a thing.
Yeah, so you also hear like these like deep dwarven voices, almost like shanty type songs where they're kind of all keeping time with each other. And it's like deeper sounds, and then, kind of the offbeat is the higher sounds, but there's a very clear like chorus of voices that sound very similar to Hannar, because you're very familiar with Hannar's voice. And these voices sound very similar to Hannar. While they're a little bit, some of them are higher and lower, there's like a familial similarity. Man, do you have a name for the shop, or have you thought of that?
Oh, I didn't even think about it.
Okay, well, we can come up with one. But you come up to this, it's not carved, it's a very large piece that's got a very, very high ceiling, and it's carved in. It almost goes up to the next tier. It's so high. And then the front of it is almost more of a decorative piece. It doesn't go all the way up to the ceiling. There's like a gap between the ceiling and the top of these like walls, similar to like what you'd see for like a theater production or something like that, because it wants the sound to come out, because it doesn't want that sound to be trapped in there, because that would hurt the hearing of the people inside. So that would let the ringing and the singing come out, and that also helps draw business to their shop, because that's part of how you, in like Dwarven society and many societies, singing and getting attention and calling out and hawking gets people to come to your shop.
Well, I don't think dwarves are all about big signage.
No.
So it's kind of you're telling people what's going on in here because they can hear it.
Yeah, exactly. The Dwarven cities, while they're very carefully laid out, are sort of like labyrinths. Like if you don't know exactly where you're going, you're not just going to wander around and find, oh, this shop. So having these very clear markers and things like that, or like these sounds, are much more helpful than just having signs. So, and you can go and there is in the side like carved, like it's like a battle. It's hard to tell exactly what it was, but it's like in an old dwarven tale, and there's these very mighty looking like dwarven warriors fighting, and there is a sign hanging out that is made of, it looks like it was cast in metal almost, but when you get up close you can actually see very tiny, like well done, like rivets and soldering on the edges of it. It's just it's so finely done that it looks like one solid piece. And it has the name of the shop, which we will come up with in a few minutes.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's fine. You know what? I'll use the nickname that I gave her dad.
Oh, sure.
So it's a Hammerheart Forge.
Oh.
So.
Is it in Khazad-dûl though?
Yeah.
Can't read
You
it.
can't read it. So Neo-Khaza is the current Dwarven language. As opposed to Old Khaza or whatever. Anyway, so that's the runes that are above it. So you'd know.
Sure.
You'd know anyway, but there's also like a very clear like anvil. Like you're like, if you hadn't already
Smithy.
known this is a blacksmith, you'd be able to tell what this was. But it's definitely not the type of blacksmith that does like horseshoes.
Right.
This is a fine like armorer. So this is a smith of incredible quality. Yeah.
I think Hannar gets to the front. In my head, it's sort of like the front entrance. Like I'm envisioning sort of like a little, like a British urban front garden. Like there's a little tiny strip of land where you'd walk through a front gate and then maybe up 2 steps to a big door, kind of a thing. So he probably pauses at the gate for a second and takes a deep breath and looks at the both of you and goes, "This is my father's forge. I'm hoping that he's receptive to us. If not, I'm sure we can find some other arrangement for accommodation, but it's been many years since I was here. And we didn't part on the best of terms."
Understood.
Is this a battle positions sort of?
No. I don't. If it comes to that, we're all in trouble.
Right.
I would assume that he could lift me like he lifts a hammer. So
Well,
I don't think that we're going to do much good if we come to that. So,
still at your side. Armed or not.
indeed, thank you. And he'll reach up and unlatch the gate and push up to the front door. I think there's even, like, he takes the axe and there's a spot on the wall where he hangs it. Like there's, a pair of brackets and then another one that holds where the handle is. And he puts the axe there and then knocks on the door.
Aerlind looks at Hannar kind of nervously, like, should I take my bow off? I have this sword. Should I?
It's fine. It's fine.
We're gonna say that like you don't have to knock on the door.
Oh, okay.
The front part of this is actually a storefront type thing.
Oh, okay.
Where like it's not like a clothing store where they have a bunch of stuff in different sizes, but it's like they have things on display of their craft.
Some models.
Yeah, that models different options that you can like go up to and say, "Hey, I would love a shield similar to this." Like, so it's all custom order. But you walk in, and your sister, Deirdre, is standing there, and she is like looking down. There's kind of like a kind of a desk. It's not exactly like a podium, but it's kind of like that sales counter type thing.
Sure.
And on it, there's a bunch of papers and scrolls and what look like different orders from different people. And she's frantically like
One
writing.
of those sharp sticks to slap the orders
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Kind of, yeah. And she is writing something, and one minute, I'll be with you in a moment. Take a look around, see if there's anything you like. If you're here to pick up an order, we might need a little bit more time. One moment. And she continues running.
Here's a question. Who do you think I've been sending stuff home to?
Now, are you the oldest?
Probably.
Okay, that's why it was like such a disappointment.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna have a list. I'm putting you at the top of the list of siblings.
Oh, no.
So Deirdre is like the youngest.
Ah,
So I was kind of picturing you still had a good relationship with your mother.
sure, that's fine.
Yeah, and she probably takes after like Deirdre probably. You probably have a good relationship with her. And your mom, Dranura. Dranura, daughter of Madeira.
Thank you. I can remember Madeira, like
Yeah.
the wine.
Yeah. In a hurry right before, and I left my wine in the house. So there you go.
Oh, that's great.
Good work. Solid, actually.
Solid, yeah. World building right there. Okay. And so it's up to you. Would you have a good relationship with her?
Well, I don't think I.
Just so you know, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 siblings between you and her.
Sure. I think I think I probably barely knew her as an adult,
Okay.
right? Because I left when I was a fairly young-ish adult.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of a, she was the baby. She was still in primary school when I left,
Okay.
kind of a thing. So I probably haven't seen her since.
Yeah, I mean, for a young, yeah, okay, yeah. So it could have been up to like 50 years ago,
Right.
100 years ago.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well,
Okay.
I'm not
Not
that
100,
old,
okay.
but yeah. I'm like that's around my age.
Okay.
So I figure I probably left in my 30s,
Oh, okay.
something
Oh, wow,
around
okay.
there, or 40s maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
When like just you were just an adult, brand new adult.
Yeah,
Slightly
maybe
under?
like I tried for a few years to get into the apprenticeship program, that kind of a thing. So
Equivalent of
probably-
like 18-ish.
no, probably more like, he finished normal schooling and then went into this program, and so like
22.
Couldn't get accepted to a master's
didn't get into a
program.
grad school program. Yeah, exactly.
Got
so
it,
like that
okay.
24, right around there is about the time I'm thinking I left home.
Okay, so she would be the
In
equivalent.
Dwarven equivalent.
24. So she'd be the equivalent. She probably was around like 16, like when
Okay.
we left.
Sure.
Because like boom, 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 boom.
Gotcha. Okay.
One right after the other. I don't know. It was something in the air those decades for your dad and your mom. But
Good couple of years.
yeah, maybe just a little younger. She might have been like around between 12 and like 14, probably.
Sure.
So definitely old enough to have
Early
like
teenager.
yeah, and totally like, but old enough to have like strong memories of you and like
Sure.
be have a personality when you left, that sort of thing. So yes. So would you think would she be
I think we're probably on fine terms.
okay?
I think I'd walk up to the podium or pedestal or desk, whatever kind of combo thing. I'd probably walk up to it and I'd just rest an elbow on the front of it and say, well, I'm not here to pick up an order, but I am here for a bit and a long overdue visit.
She like stops what she's doing when she sees your elbow and looks up at you, and does not recognize you. Like your
Fair
hair is a
enough.
little different. You're wearing all different armor. You're not wearing the helm of your family.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like your weight's probably fluctuated a bit in the last 5 decades. like you look different.
Sure.
And she kind of like looks at you for a second and is like, "Excuse me?"
And I'll reach up and take off the helmet
Yeah, and then she kind of is like,
and
"Hannar?
yes, indeed.
What? You're visiting? Does Dad know?"
No, that's why I came here first.
Oh, she looks like awkward. Like there's a thing she's not saying.
Huh.
Okay, well, Ty, good to. And then she freezes because she sees the two of you. Like
Yeah.
she's processed.
I
Yes,
go on in.
These are my companions from my travel.
Aerlind.
Like, what a big
Stop it. We already stick out.
Shamuka.
And I would introduce by name. Here.
Yes.
This is Aerlind of Mithlond and Liriel of Rivendell. Fine companions I have met along my travel.
I am Deirdre, daughter of Denura.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to make your acquaintance.
Yeah.
Lovely establishment.
Thank you. Yes. Why don't you browse for a minute? Hannar, can I speak with you for a moment?
Of course.
And then suddenly it's like just like absolutely flabbergasted, like doesn't know what to say, like still fairly young dwarven woman is like,
This is a lot.
The customer service dwarf has now taken over. And then she's, why did you Hannar? And she like walks around the counter.
Hannar.
And like surprisingly like strong, like does the like arm around your like arm thing and like pulls you.
I think I probably stumble a little bit because I was leaning on the desk. So it's very much a
Yeah.
yeah.
So she pulls you off to like a side room.
Sure. Well, there's probably like at least a fitting room sort of a thing.
Yeah,
you know,
that's exactly
ion.
what she drags you.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the way this works, like the front, there's like a thinner rectangular room that kind of works as like the storefront. You came into that through the big doors. Past there, the room, there's another set of large doors that are more just for like just to keep customers out. They're not like super functional doors. That goes back to the actual work area. And that's where the hammer sounds are all coming from and the singing. And you can hear Hannar, at least 4 of, your family members have to be back there like hammering away, creating stuff right now.
I think that's probably why the songs are so rhythmic, is when you're working on bigger pieces, you have multiple people hammering the same piece.
Yeah.
So it's all about you keep your part.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the function of shanties too, is to keep all the sailors in time. So yeah, she drags you into like into a fitting room, which is like a little awkward, but like whatever. She's panicking at this moment.
Erlin's not paying attention.
Yeah.
Well, I envision it probably like a fairly high-end dressing room, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
it's
With a
got a
chair
polished
and the-
mirror on one side.
Oh, it's lovely.
The customers could like there's room in there.
Yeah, it's
not-
still a little awkward when she's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Don't listen to it." Like drag.
Okay, Aerlind starts singing.
Okay.
Just trying to like catch the maybe not the words because he doesn't understand probably what they're actually singing, but just like starts to hum along pretty audibly. Like I'm both enjoying this music and minding my own business.
Yeah. Hannar, are you okay? Are you captive? Do we need to?
No, everything's fine. Fine. They're, as I said, traveling companions.
Right, you're not being held hostage for like
No,
the family fortune or something.
no, I am not. Nor have I brought elven prisoners back home. There's not the relationship there at all.
Well, I knew that. How could you hold 2 elves prisoner?
Wow. I have been places and done some things since I left. I'll have you know.
Okay. Like she obviously has no idea. Like whatever family members you're keeping in the loop,
Yeah.
she's not in the loop. She thinks you're off like selling stuff.
Sure. Yeah. No,
And the way I said that is how she feels about that.
sure. Yeah.
Selling stuff.
Oh.
Hypocrisy of her being here selling stuff, but
No, but like having to go places to
Like
sell things.
Yeah.
traveling
Yeah.
salesman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's very low.
yeah.
People should come to you.
Right. As a craftsman,
Yes.
you have made things and people will come and buy them if they're good enough things. If you have to go to them, that means that you're selling substandard things.
Ooh.
Well, no, I have traveled quite a distance around the world and seen many places that no one in the family has ever seen, and fought many terrible things. Just 2 days ago, or whatever, before the journey, a week ago, however long that was, defeated an evil creature of darkness not far from here, just down at Creek's Crossing on the way to Bree. And I only defeated that creature because of my companions that I've brought with me here.
So
And
it's like-
an additional companion that is busy at the moment.
She like gives you the look of like the little sister who's not sure whether you're trying to trick her or not, and she's like trying to suss that out, like super suspicious. A creature of darkness?
Yeah. Yes. A monstrous being that resembled a bat, but was
Bats are very tiny. We have bats all over the place. Hannar.
9 foot tall.
A 9-foot tall bat?
Yes, that spoke in the foulest language.
I mean, you've heard Fleg's language. I don't know if anything could be fouler than that.
No,
That's another one of your-
language. Language that dripped like tar from its mouth. Not seedy language. Not the language of, oh, I've hit my thumb. The language just felt wrong.
Oh, that she doesn't know what to do with this information.
And I think Hannar like points at his armor because he hasn't really changed the armor part.
Yeah.
And like see the battle-y marks.
Yeah.
I mean, he's taken care of it and oiled things and buffed the leather bits and that stuff. But like you can see that there's damage
Ding's
that
a
has
ding.
occurred. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have fought things out there. I didn't set out to do so, but I have found my way into a life of adventuring that I didn't think I would when I left.
So you're not a merchant anymore. You're
Well,
like
a little.
hero and a warrior.
Well, I have done more warrioring of the past year than I anticipated. Finding my way to.
Wow. And they like helped you? She
Yes.
kind of like glances out at what's very obviously like where the elves are.
I would not still be here if not for them.
I thought, I mean, they saved a dwarf?
Yeah, yes.
She looks just like, wow.
Here's something I have learned as I've traveled. It's easy to dislike a group, but it's also easy to like individuals.
That makes sense. Yeah, okay.
And I think I have spent quite a bit of time in the lands of the elves.
You've been to the lands of the elves?
Yes, several of the major cities.
And our dad's gonna kill you.
I understand.
Did
but
you give them like any of our I mean, you kept the family armor secrets, right?
I have not shared a single bit.
Okay.
You know, how much could I have shared?
She nods like, yeah, that's a fair point. Okay. Meh.
I've gotten better. I found my way to being a little better at things.
Yeah, right.
The truth.
Okay. Prove it. She again grabs you by the arm and like drags you out of the changing room, like walks past.
Up front, you just see the curtain from the changing room.
Yeah, something's going on.
And
Yeah. She walks right back out into the workroom, like right past the elves. Hi. Yeah. Okay. And like goes and throws open the other two doors back to the workshop. Which like there's suddenly this like halt in the song and like the hammers kind of falter for a second. And then there's just like this dead silence as she's like, and you hear her feet like on the walkway, like, and she drags, all right, everyone, Hannar's back and he's going to show us that he can make stuff now.
Oh no.
So she's gonna drag you up to like one of the, you can see as you look up, there's like two rows and there's almost, it's very like cathedral church type vibes, the way it's laid out. It's all in like very geometric patterns and stuff like that. But there's literally 2 rows of anvils, one on each side, and there's like an aisle up the middle. Mm-hmm. And the anvils get bigger as you go closer. And then at the end, there is almost what looks like an altar with a huge anvil on the top. And that is like Bruni's like special anvil that he uses only for things. And there's nobody there right now, which is strange, Hannar. I don't know if you have a moment to notice that, but that probably
I think immediately. That's what I'm like, oh God. Oh no. Like,
yeah. And you look up straight up there. And
so you heard her footsteps and then you heard like scuffing shuffle feet along.
I mean, you can both see, like, the doors are flung open and it's like a big aisleway and you can see everything even if you don't.
I just get this picture of Aerlind and Liriel, like, on opposite sides of the door, but, like, leaning in.
And, like, there's, like, the silence of, like, Hannar, you can do it. And then silence again as they both see your heads kind of poke out. And then and then Deirdre's also like, oh yeah, they're He's with two elves who saved him a bunch of times. I don't know. She like marches you up to one of the very small like beginner anvils,
Sure.
and like
It's like the kids' table.
Yeah. There's the macaroni art.
yeah,
The next one's paint by numbers.
it's similar to that vibe. And the four other dwarves, there's three brothers and who you assume is a sister, all up there at the very far, like they're not at the big anvil, but they're the ones right in front of the big anvil. And so those four anvils are taken and have been being worked all day. Behind the anvils, there's like this long row of what are like it sort of is like a long pizza oven almost, but it's not actually a pizza oven. But it's got that vibe. It's got like the hood that then kind of goes up into the decoration and the geometric shapes on the wall, and it just like runs the length of the room. And it's where they heat the metal first, and then they turn it right around. And it seems like it is designed so that each station can actually control the level of heat, even though it looks like one long trough of like fire. It is very precisely made. So depending on what they are forging at a specific anvil, they're able to control the temperature based on what metal they're doing for. And it gives kind of this strange glow to like the rest of the room. But you do notice that one of the kind of pinpoints of light that has been drilled into the mountain that is true sunlight is shining down on that big anvil in the front. Because that is like where the most beautiful art is made, and it needs like the truest, purest light. And it is then kind of somewhat reflected around the rest of the room, so it is actually a fairly bright room. But that's just like this strange, like pure, bright, a little more diffuse than that, but it's just like bright, like bright white blue light with like the rest of the room kind of being like warm yellow and red tones.
We are finally among Aerlind's people.
Yes.
He's been like, dwarves, how do I dwarves? What are dwarves? Crafts people.
Yeah.
And you can see the sparkle in his eye.
Yes. Yeah, forge. I know it's a forge, but I'm getting the visual.
Come on, James.
I know.
Yeah, it's not just here's a hot little.
Yeah, it's an epic part of the architecture in addition to being functional. And that's what kind of the vibe you get with everything. Like everything is stunning, but also very functional. So your siblings who were crafting at first, when there was like this like strange silence when she is dragging you, then they see who you are and they're like, "Hey, Hannar, oh my gosh, you're back!" Blah 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 blah. And then she like marches you to one of the forges, like completely ignoring all of them. I don't know, like
Sure.
little sister is now like one of the bosses. I don't know how that happened, but
No, I know exactly how it happened.
And then she marches you over to the forge. She makes that announcement, and everyone's like, and they kind of smirk, and then they look awkward, like, "Are we getting in trouble about this?" Like, and then they're all like shocked that there's two elves that are here, and now they're just like also looking sort of baffled and super curious.
Sure.
And sort of frozen in place, not knowing what to do.
I think also by the smaller forges, there's like pieces that are in process, but they look very much like the armor that you've seen on humans in Bree. Like it's the export armor, like
Yeah.
that kind
It's
of.
made for the tourist trade.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yes. What would I try and what's fast to make?
I mean, we're going to use
The magic of the
Yeah,
game.
like
I
you-
understand.
yeah,
No, but I would like even in character, Hannar would be pondering immediately, like, what could I make that would be somewhat impressive yet not take 6 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a situation.
something probably small and very fine. Like something
Yeah,
that would take a
yeah.
lot of small, very detail-oriented work would be very impressive.
So I think he's gonna try and make just a band,
Okay.
like a wrist piece.
Okay.
But I think the crafting part of it is going to be he's going to take a blank and then he's going to hammer in like another metal overlay in like a sort of a filigree thing. And I think what he wants to do is he wants to do it similar to something he saw on the giant elf from his visions.
Oh.
Like just a piece that they were wearing, right? Like I'm going to make it look like that. I didn't, it's not like I studied it or anything,
No.
but I want to make it look vaguely like that.
Okay.
And I think it was probably something that was hammered.
Yeah.
So it had like facets in the metal. So that's what he's going to try and make.
Okay. Fantastic.
We'll see. It might go horribly.
Okay. Do you want to spend a hope on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
We want to give you a fellowship point for it, I think.
Yes, yes.
So spend a hope
we
and
want
take
this
a
to go
fellowship
well.
point.
And don't forget your gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So give
That
you
gives me the extra.
blessing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one more for the using a hope point.
Yeah.
And then you see Hannar and he picks up this blank. And then he picks up just this super thin little spool of looks like gold, or maybe like a actually it's probably more like a rose gold tint to it, right? And he picks up the two pieces and looks at both of them, one in each hand, and whispers at them, and just kind of closes his eyes and focuses, and then he takes the two metals and just strikes them off of each other. And then he puts it on the forge and starts with the tiniest little ball peen hammer just working on it. So
Okay. When you do that, like you can immediately, like your sister who's standing there smirking kind of stops smirking. And you can see the four siblings who are up higher in the room kind of look at each other and like, whoa. And then look back at you. And suddenly they're paying attention, not to like ridicule, but like genuine curiosity.
sure. So specifically that was the roleplay version of using the little bit of magic that I picked up
Yeah.
because I put it in crafting.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it work from 10, 15 sessions.
Aerlind is like willing, but is also like trying to will this to go well, but also can't stop thinking about the boat.
I know.
Just like, please don't make this the boat. Please make this beautiful. You can do it.
It just comes out all gnarled.
No.
Like, I tried, everybody.
It's abstract.
Here we go.
Yeah.
It's a centerpiece
A really little one.
for a tiny table.
Been hanging out with
All right.
hobbits.
I'm,
It's for my child. Sorry.
all right. Here we go. Lucky. We can do this. Okay.
Huh?
Nothing exceptional, but I clearly made it.
Oh, okay.
Yay.
I was hoping with all these dice I'd get something good, but no. But I well surpassed.
Okay. Yeah. No. Like very, in a very clear, like shorter amount of time than you'd expect. Like you have a very finely wrought like piece of jewelry. It is definitely above what anybody in Bree could make. It is very respectable for dwarven craftsmanship. And yeah, like your sister Deirdre like picks it up and just like, wow. You weren't kidding, Hannar. You are a lot better.
Here's the question.
Okay.
Is there some kind of a visual tell to having used that little bit of magic?
Do you want there to be?
I don't know.
I think it would probably only if someone else had that magical
Okay.
gift. I think most people wouldn't be able to see that.
Sure.
So it's sort of like the spirit blessing on your armor and things like that. Like other people who've been blessed by the spirit or people who might have magical vision might be able to tell.
Sure.
But for the most part, it looks,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah. So I think your sister doesn't seem to notice anything about that.
Cool.
And she like goes running up the aisle and starts showing it to your other siblings, and they're all commenting on it. And then like they her like coming down and they're like joking, wow, this is amazing, and they're just like cheering you on, slapping you on the back, like
I think I probably go around and start the hug.
Yeah.
Like the chain around the room thing. And then I would turn back to the door and be like, thank you for your patience. This went better than I expected.
You did wonderfully.
And then I'll go around the room and do that party introduction that you'll never remember all.
No, I was like,
Yeah.
But-
okay,
yeah.
no.
Oh,
All
there's
the-
only 5 of them there right now.
Sure, but it's still
So
it's 5 people,
5
and you're just
dwarven
like
names.
name.
Yeah.
So I'll go around the room and introduce all of them, and I'll introduce you to them, and then I'll say I've come back for a visit. We're on our way north, farther into the mountains. I have fallen into the habit of helping to defeat evil things out in the world. And we've heard that there is something to the north that needs a reckoning.
Hannar the warrior.
I
And they
wouldn't have
like-
thought so either.
They say it kind of like they're about to make a joke, and then they're like, oh, okay.
So, and then I look at all of them, and I'd probably be like, what's going on with Father?
Oh, and then just as like Deirdre's about to speak, there's like this like abrupt like marching sound and like shoes stopping. What is going on here? And you turn around,
Aha.
and it's your brother Droney.
Oh.
He's your younger brother by 1. So if you were supposed to be kind of like the heir apparent, when you took off, he was what was left. And he's always had a bit of a contentious relationship with you. He was very gifted at crafting. He, like, I don't know if that may be part of why you left. You felt like, he was...
Well, I think it calculated in. I think probably at that point, Hannar was like, look, you've got somebody that can do it so much better. If I get out of the way, then it's easier to make that decision rather than being embarrassed.
Yeah. Yeah, so Droney's standing right there, and he's just like, Hannar?
Indeed. I have returned for a visit.
Visit. And he's like this is a very palpable difference. Like Deirdre was like kind of like friendly hazing energy. Like there was still love underneath. Like, yeah, like there's like cold steel between these two. And everyone else in the room had kind of is frozen too. Like they've just all kind of like pulled in a little bit. The whole temperature of the room is cooled. You come for a visit and you didn't stop home.
Well, I assumed that Father would be here at work.
Oh. And he just like looks like frustrated and like disappointed. It's just like exuding off him. But you see behind the eyes, like probably not Hannar. You probably you don't notice, but the two of you might notice like a little bit of like fear and like a little bit of like jealousy, like there's a little bit of that for sure here. Well, Father had a mishap at his anvil a few weeks ago. It's taking some time to heal, and he's at home.
Oh.
I've been taking his place at the Great Anvil.
Well, wonderful.
He like looks at you like he doesn't trust that you really think it's wonderful, but like, thank you.
Well,
I'm not sure it's wonderful that Father got hurt.
obviously
but-
not. I meant wonderful that you have stepped up to keep the fires hot.
Well, who else was going to do it?
That's the point I'm making.
Yes, that's the point I'm making too. There's just like everyone's just like, if everyone could like disappear into the walls, they would.
You
But
see
they're all
dwarves climbing into the floor.
Included. We're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Two elves are just like,
Especially because he marched up and walked right between.
yep.
yes. So I assume these two are also with you.
Yes. They have been my traveling companions now for quite some time.
You always have to be different. You always have to buck tradition, Hannar. You can never just do what's expected. Well, I suppose we will have to make the elves welcome then as guests of the family. He turns to you. I am Droney, son of Bruni. welcome to our great city. Welcome to my family's forge. And I will escort you to our home where you will be staying at the invitation of my brother.
Aerlind bows gratuitously
Yes.
deeply.
We thank you for your hospitality.
It is a high honor that this forge is breathtaking.
Thank you. You can see the way he says that.
Yeah.
He doesn't think
Not
too
thank
much
you.
of your opinions.
Not thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. He's very clearly like speaking common in a little bit of like a way that's communicating it's uncomfortable for him and he doesn't like it and he
He's doing
thinks
it on
it's less
purpose.
than he's telegraphing his disappointment in his brother and his dislike for your presence, but is doing it in a way that is still like very proper manners.
And like the Cold War between the dwarves and elves, Aerlind is laying it on even thicker. Even though, like, when we got here, Liriel was like, "Nyeh." He's like, okay, fine, I'll stop. But now it's like, how much worse can I make this?
And I think Liriel picks up on that and she's like, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So he bows exactly as much as he can, like as is proper, and not like a fraction more. Zayat Sazu, which means at your service, which only you know. He seems to be like just drilling it in how much you don't belong by speaking his dwarvish language as much as possible. And then he like walks past you and expects you to follow him and continues walking.
I think we both look at Hannar.
I think
Everyone's looking at you. All your siblings are also looking at you.
Hannar looks at the two of you and in passable but rocky Elvish, Sindarin, because that's what he's been studying, says, "You're welcome at my house," but he doesn't like it very much.
In Sindarin back. That is very clear.
Like, all your siblings are like, at you speaking Elvish. They're just, their jaws are agape.
They don't know it's terrible Elvish.
No, they have no idea.
idea.
Like, you are a worldly warrior traveler who speaks Elvish now. They're just like, oh. And like Deirdre, who's like giving you shit a few seconds before, is like, we should go. And she like takes your arms like supportingly now instead of dragging you. It's like
Sure.
a totally like 360.
And I think walking out, Hannar probably puts his hand in his pocket and pulls out one of the rock candies.
The 180. What 360 would be the same. Sorry, 180.
We're just Disney.
Just very
What's
easy.
happening?
Yeah.
720. Let's go.
Sorry, we broke Dave.
No,
I teach geometry. I wanted to get right.
my brain connects weird dots sometimes. So immediately I went to like Tony Hawk's Moria
Yeah,
Skater 4.
yeah.
Just all of those non-handrailed edges over horrible cliffs.
Amazing.
Just
The biggest unfilled swimming pool you've ever seen.
Yes.
all right. Excuse me. So yeah, Hannar pulls out one of the little rock candies he always carries and hands it to Deidre as we start to walk.
Okay. She's gonna turn around and like wave her hand at the rest of them. Keep working. They're gonna be really upset if we stop working. And the four other siblings like kind of nod and they look like they really want to follow.
Like, I'm probably like facing away, but like looking back, like I'll see you at dinner.
Yep. Bye, see you later. And then they all go back to work. But you can hear instead of singing now, they're all just talking. Like, yeah, just like dwarvish flying back and forth. Obviously, they're like, do you think it'll survive? It'll be fine. Blah, 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 like, all these things. And yeah, your brother has not slowed down. Like, Joni was walking at a brisk pace, not like super speed walking, but like, at this point, it's a little rude. Like,
I have elven legs.
yeah. You're able to keep up. And Deirdre's walking with you, and she's kind of like trying to fill you in on some of this.
I think Hannar purposely leaves the axe in the holder.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and you walk and you're following your brother who is not turned around is not doing it, like, just walking straight ahead. And now there's like this little weird kind of parade happening, which is definitely drawing a lot of attention because there's your brother walking probably like 6 paces ahead of the rest of you. The 2 elves are walking, and then your sister is walking with you, just like frantically relaying a bunch of information in Dwarvish as fast as she can
All right.
about what's been happening lately, just so you're like prepared.
Sure.
And she's doing it in a way that's like helpful. Like, okay, this is happening. Johnny's taking over the forge right now. Well, Dad's getting better. Mom's just like losing her mind because Dad's at home all day and he's really angry about it. He's in a very bad mood all the time. Be ready for that.
Great.
I'd start off with maybe all the stuff you killed. That's really cool. He might be interested. Maybe you should leave this. She kind of like waves at your armor stuff. Maybe in the hallway or before you go in the closet.
Well, I don't have something else to change into at the moment.
I mean, you've got like a tunic underneath your armor.
Yeah, but I'm not going to...
Okay.
Have you ever seen a dwarf just wandering around in their under thingies?
No, that's
No.
that's sort of
Really?
like clarifying to you, like, like she's really worried about how this is gonna like look.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
She's basically saying, "Hey, do you want to wear a T-shirt instead of what you're wearing?"
Right.
Like,
Maybe change out of your elven pajamas.
Yeah.
I get it. I
Yeah.
get it.
Okay.
But
It's
sure,
like-
sure.
Okay. All right. Okay. So anyway, so me and so also like we did a like all she just like like all these things. Like so and so had a baby, so and so got married, you know. It was only like 20 years ago, but you know, like just all these like random things. Some of it you've heard because you've kind of kept in touch with your mother. And can we say
do
that
the vague message back and forth once in a while.
yeah, and can we say maybe you're in touch also with your brother Fleg?
Sure.
Okay. Fleg is also like, he's not quite, you know, the black sheep of the family like you are. If you didn't exist, he would kind of be the black sheep of the family.
Sure.
But comparatively, you know, anybody's acceptable. No offense, Hannar.
No, yeah.
But Fleg and you kind of have similar vibe and interests. And he is the one right under Droney. So he's like the third brother. And he's a fine craftsman. He likes to read, actually. So he was always one of those, yeah. So he was always kind of like a little bit of a bookworm
The
nerd
dwarf,
type. Yeah. So he did really well with like the engineering parts. He could like design forges that did awesome things. Was fine at actually crafting armor, and that was like the family business. And your dad is a little inflexible about the family business.
Sure.
So while like being an engineer is actually a very respected dwarven kind of role in society, it's not something that's super accepted, particularly by your father specifically. So that was always a little hard. It's like, So, but you
But
bond.
Dad, I
Yeah.
want to be an engineer.
No, you have to be a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. So, but he's kept in touch with you also, as well as your mother. Your mother is a little more like book loving as well. Yeah, you did not see, he was not one of the siblings at the forge though.
Okay. I think I'd probably run down the roster with Deidre as we walk of like, has anybody gotten in a relationship? Like, what's the family gossip of like, are you seeing anybody? Or, you know, all of that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
Do we have any living grandparents?
I don't know, do you?
I think there has to be,
Okay.
right? Like, maybe a grandmother, like father's mom,
Yeah, I was just thinking
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Oh no.
like the dowager dwarf.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
I have great dowager energy. It's fantastic. Okay.
I'm in love with her already.
Yes. Let me find a name for her. Let's see. Her name is going to be Jerabera. No. That's, how do you say that? 1 second. I don't know. I'm picking a different one.
Linguistics are wild.
Yeah, some of them have like weird things. We'll say Dulcinea.
Oh,
Ooh,
That
I
was
like
much
that.
better.
great name.
Dulcinea. It popped in my
I
head.
don't know what that is.
I am I, Don Quixote.
Oh, yeah.
Dulcinea.
Oh,
Dulcinea.
oh yeah. Yeah. Dulcinea, daughter of Dulgrana.
Say that again.
Dulgrana. Yeah, so that would be your great grandmother.
That I probably have like the childhood memories of.
Probably, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like very early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That like you have the hazy memory. I
Yeah.
don't know about you guys. The hazy memory of the great grandparents that are like
Did I meet them? Or if I
still
just-
all
yeah.
like behind a weird 1960s lens filter in your brain. And, like,
Did I see the picture or did I actually see them? Yeah. All right. Yes. So Dulcinea, daughter of Dulgrana, is still kind of the family matriarch. When you left, she was already fairly frail, even for a dwarf, and often stayed out of kind of the forge. So her husband, your great grandfather, was a crafter as well, but your father's just raw talent brought the family business to like the next level. It's
Sure.
like, having a family of composers and then Mozart is born.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. So he basically took what was a very respectable family forge and made it into one of the preeminent like forges in probably the Dwarven kingdoms, much less here. Like, so like it's a big deal. And so that's why he also has a bit of a drive, because he did all this. He built this not from nothing, but he did so well
Made
for
it,
his family that he wants to make sure it continues beyond him. So yeah, you walk up to
he's not the Nepo dwarf.
No.
not at all.
He took what he was given and made it cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. He forged it like beautiful raw materials that he turns into suits of artistic armor on the regular that save lives and also look stunning and are slimming. Like
Fast to put on, not loud.
Yeah, all these things. Just amazing. Like he also did the same in his business and his life. He took very respectable raw materials and turned them to what is a work of art. Yeah, so you walk up to and you are walking down kind of the main dwarvish road around the edge of like what is down, and you can see the next tier below. And then it kind of turns off. There's almost like a little bit of a side road that goes down into what is a courtyard. And it actually has like a few plants in it, which are very specific like planters and pots, like not a lot, but this is like dwarven opulent wealth. Like plants grow in Torchlight, so it's not completely unheard of, but to have these specific ones that are only for looking at is sort of like, having purple cloth in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
Look how fancy and wealthy we are. We have plants inside.
Yeah.
So they are a little bit in this courtyard. And then the courtyard leads up to, again, like some steps and a very finely carved, like stunning home. And it's basically a carved, the shape of what would be like almost not a castle, it's too grand, but like basically a carved like semblance of like almost the family history a little bit in the shape of kind of, if you cut it out, it'd be like, oh, that's kind of like a home or a tower shape. But it's literally like the wall of a cavern, because then they go and they dig in to the thing behind it. So it's kind of giving you the illusion of a building, even though it's not a building. It's
Right.
more tunnels and rooms carved inside. So it's a trick of the eye. Your brain is telling you this is a building, and you're like really thinking about it. No, that's just carved into the wall of this giant cavern, and it's stunning. It is beautiful work. Obviously, fairly expensive. And then there's 2 stunning doors, almost nicer than the ones you walked in on. Yeah, that have a bunch of incredibly finely etched like ruins of family names and such things, and it's like a blessing from the Valar on the house in Dwarvish. And your brother walks up to the doors and pushes them open without even like a step, like just right through, walks through, still has not looked to see if you're following. And your sister is now like holding your arm for support a little bit.
Oh no.
She's a little nervous, and if the 2 of you look back, she's like trying to look encouraging. Good luck, you'll do great. And then looks at your brother like,
I think as we get closer to the house, Hannar tells her, when I go inside, do me a favor. See if you can go and collect old, I forgot his name. I have the jeweler's name.
Oh, Felix?
Felix.
Philic, yeah, Boulder Song is the stone singer, and then Gale Sharpstone is the one that was like the jeweler who crafted the chains that kept the pearl closed, and that Runa's visiting.
I would ask her to go pay a visit to Felix.
Okay.
To be like, maybe you could come for dinner.
And then she like looks at you like baffled for a second, and then she's like, oh. Like, you could see her like the respect, like that's a smart move. Like, yeah. Yeah, and she like nods and like taps you on the shoulder like, good luck.
And
then she kind of
Hannar gets to the first step and kind of looks down at it for a second. And then like heavily picks up each foot and trudges up the steps.
Right behind Aerlind, like takes a moment to like fully right himself in its entirety, just like making sure that his cloak is sitting beautifully, his pauldron looks so good. He checks, makes sure that his beautiful horn is like very obviously positioned so that it is seen. And the same goes for his astrolabe and the case that it is in. Just like, I have stuff that you should look at and respect me for.
Behold
my stuff. No, he is definitely trying to be like, your son is an adventurer and we all look like adventurers.
All right. Hannar, even from last time I heard, like it was a fine house. Like it was a very opulent, like wealthy home when you left. It is even more so now. Like very clearly, like having more siblings able, like coming of age and learning the craft has like quadrupled or more the output that your family's able to do. So this is like almost on the verge of being a little bit gaudy. Like,
oh yeah.
It's not tasteless, but just a little more, and it very easily could go that route.
It's well put together, and if it was slightly less well put together, you'd go, oh.
Yeah. Like it is probably like your father's like incredibly good eye for like artistic and visual things that has kept it looking very classy and nice. If anyone with less talent had tried to do it, it would just wow. Like wow. So
yeah. I know exactly the kind of house you're talking about.
Yeah. We know. So the doors are there open, and you.
I think. Tell me if this is too much, but I think just inside the door, there's just a small table, and on it there's just the thinnest little tiny candlestick, but it's actually mithril.
Okay.
And it has a candle in it that's always burning.
Okay.
So somebody always takes care of it, clears away the wax and all that. But it's just, like, that's probably, like, the crowning jewel of the family.
Okay.
Just right there as people walk in to go, oh.
Yeah, this tiny little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very tiny and super thin. Like, just a little thread of it going up just to hold a little candle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like that would be a little bit more. It'd be it'd be tasteless.
Right, yeah.
Like, but it's like, look how rich we are as you first walk in our door. Like that's exactly where it would be. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And it even like is in like labeled in bright, like it's not silver because silver would contrast and look so bad next to the mithril, but like in fine golden letters. It's in Dwarvish runes. It is like the mithril of, and then it lists the mine like that it was taken from. We'll say Khazad-dûm, and it's like, who knows? Like,
Yeah, it was probably like a thing that an old relative snatched on the way out the door.
yeah.
Kind of
Or like I'm sort of picturing it like almost like the relics in Europe where it
Yeah.
like where it's not even like it's definitely mithril, like who knows where it came from.
Sure.
But there's like this huge story of like, oh, it was saved from Khazad-dûm before we left and blah blah blah. Like
Yeah.
where who knows? Like, I mean, maybe someone sliced it off a belt buckle they stole, who knows? But like that's the story of it, and it's all like carved in the table below the little bit of mithril, just like to be ostentatious. But still, somehow it's like really beautiful, and you're like, all right, yeah, I like that. I don't want to like it, but I do.
And I think it probably also has a little script that says, like, the flame of the forge
Yeah,
God.
on it. Like,
the
that's
flame
why it's
that
always
first lit
yeah.
the very first forge of your great grandfather.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
100%.
God.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, beautiful, very nice. Yeah, and it's a stunning home. Like even by elven standards, this is like, wow. Like these people have means, and it very tall ceilings, like thinner than you're used to. Like but like very tall. Again, kind of to help with the sound lifting and all these different things. There are kind of very specific angles when you look up at the ceiling, also to kind of help and dampen the sound so it doesn't just resonate in here. There's also cloth that is hung, like very like rich fabrics that are hung. Some of them are tapestries showing, different stories from dwarven mythology and religion. Ulmo is their Valar that created them. So like there's a lot of like tokens or images, like kind of like woven throughout, but also like hidden in different places. And yeah.
Hidden almost.
Oh,
You gotta find them as you're walking around.
no.
No,
Dave.
no. But similar to like how you can walk around like a temple of Zeus, and there are different
Sure.
like eagles and things that are representative. That's what it is. And there's a main kind of entryway, and then there's hallways that kind of go in different directions. There's one that's very clearly like, this is the main hallway. And then there's ones that are kind of off on the side that probably go to family rooms and things like that. And you can see right away, this is very large. And you also see that there's like kids coming in and out and running around. And they are like, it's one of those things where like, they're like arguing with each other. They look to be like, there's one that's 7 and one like who looks like 5. And they're obviously older than that because they're dwarves, but they're like walking down a hallway. No, I'm going to use it. No, you can't use it. And they're just having like a little kid fight, and they're like walking down and they freeze. They're seeing elves like here in the doorway, and like they're probably way too young to even know who you are.
Yeah.
They don't recognize you. And they just like, and then the little one just starts like wailing, crying. And the big one kind of like knocks, shh, shh, shh. It's just like, starts like frantically, yeah. So, and that's the only time your brothers kind of walked past that main entry hallway, and they were on like a side hallway, so they don't actually see him because he's walked past. So he stops, and you can just see him, like his shoulders are like exuding annoyance. He turns around, he marches back in, trying not to look at any of you, into kind of the main like entryway where the flame is. And he turns and looks right, and is like, go back to your room right now. These are our guests. I will not have you shouting at them, even if they are elves. He says that all in like Dwarvish. And they're just like, oh, and they stop and their eyes get wide. Guests? There are guests. Did you hear there are guests? We have elf guests. They're very tall. And they just like kind of back up quietly because they don't want to stop looking at you. And they're just like wonderment and also like, wow, they're in our house. We've got cool stuff, but this is like the coolest thing we've ever had. Like there's like that equivalent of like, but that is also drawn like, you now see a lot of like different, like these have got to be like
peeking out.
grandchildren and children and just like all looking around like, whoa. And then he kind of raises his voice. And that goes for all of you. And he kind of echoes around. And then he's like, and he kind of like looks at each of you. Continue. And he spins and like walks down the main hallway again. And
I think Hannar walks by and like rubs the inscription on the table, just out of habit, like a little kid thing he used to do, probably.
yeah.
But then follows down the hallway, like, let's do this.
We just have to follow.
Yeah.
I appreciate you both like going along on this journey. By the way. I realize it's not like
No, it's
okay.
fine.
Aerlind is like mentally taking notes since he's trying to not look like the biggest nerd. And is actively like notating though like the detail of the craftsmanship and all that stuff and just kind of trying to like gauge the age of some of it. It's so not important, but he's just like taking it all in. And thus is quiet and also trying to posture, but he's not good at it, so he's just trying to posture.
How's Liriel feeling about all of this?
She is. Well, this is her first time being surrounded by so many dwarfs. And so she's a little uncomfortable, but she understands they're just as uncomfortable, if not more so. And so she's just trying to, like, I don't know. She just wants to be supportive of Hannar. And she's just like, okay, let's just do this. This kind of thing. But she also sees Aerlind trying to, and so she kind of musters her full elfness because it's like, I'm not going to let these people make me shrink, So
I'm guessing Liriel is much more effective at this than Aerlind is. Like because you are like agile, you have been a warrior for longer than this dwarf lineage has probably existed. Like you are much older than this cavern, than this home, any of these things. You've been fighting the darkness for longer than all of this. So when you like go to exude like, the light that like within you as an elf, like it shines. Like, no offense, Aerlind, but
no.
like yours is also beautiful, and most dwarves probably couldn't tell the difference. But there's just like an aura of like, wow, yeah. So one of the not quite littlest kids, like one of the like older, she looks like she's probably like 9 or 10 maybe. Like as you're walking, like you can kind of hear like her walking behind, like way behind, like, oh, I just happened to be turning down this hallway also at the same time, and like following behind you. And she was probably, no, she was still too young for you to even know.
Yeah.
So at one point, like she kind of like will run up. She kind of like looks at both of you elves. She kind of looks at her uncle. She's like just at that age where she's starting to break rules a little bit, and like looks to see if her uncle's turning around. And then she like, you're elves. You're elves, right?
I like get down to her level and I say, yes, what's your name?
My name is Drilly. You are amazing. You're so amazing. Are you like friends of my grandfather? I know he's like really well known. Does he like make armor for the elven armies or something and we didn't know?
No, we're friends of Hannar.
Who's Hannar?
Ooh. I think at this point, Aerlind has stepped behind Liriel to kind of just like block her presence, just to be like, nothing's happening here. No one should yell at this child. This is perfect.
And I say, well, I think you're going to find that out. I don't want you to get in trouble.
Okay. She just looks like a little bit baffled. And like looking at her, Hannar, like she was so excited she was rude and didn't give her full name. But she looks just like your sister Hezgra. Like, like she's a little bit older. She's like one of the middle sisters. She was one of the ones at the forge. She looks like just like her at that age. Like there's no doubt. Like, yep, that's her. So she's obviously like a niece or something. And if you think back to like the babble that Deirdre was giving you between the forge and here, like, oh yeah, and Hezgra has had like 3 kids and blah blah blah, like just like all these things. There's a lot of information that was done.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to get in trouble either. Right. I would like to. Okay. Do you all really live forever? Like forever?
I just nod my head. I say yes.
Okay, so like if you know me, so like you'll remember me forever. So like forever people will know me.
Yes.
That is so cool.
Liriel is just very amused by this.
She's like
inquiry.
Okay. So like, and she like pulls off like a ring that is very nice. Like it's like a fancy thing for a dwarf. It's like, okay, it's fine. But it's like a kid's thing. She like hands it to you, Liriel. And it's like, okay, so you have to keep this forever. So that way, no matter what, forever, something about me will be here. Always. She obviously has no idea about Valinor or any of this.
Say, I am so touched by your gift. And I put it on my pinky.
Yeah.
I say, I shall wear it forever.
So cool. Wow. Okay. And then, like, you hear, get away from that. They are our guests. You leave them alone and stop. She, like, doesn't even wait for that sentence to be finished. She's like, bye. And, like, runs back down the hall the other way. And you turn, and Droney is just, like, glaring. Like, I am... He just, like, has to swallow his pride. I apologize for my niece.
I just look at him and say, oh, she was delightful.
Your home is lovely as well.
Yes.
He doesn't quite know. Like, for a moment, you see a softening for just a minute of, like, when you compliment his niece. There's obviously, like, a fondness there. And you see a little bit of a similarity in their temperament and how they both kind of, like, they both got some fire. And then, thank you. It's the first time you've seen him, like, soften kind of towards you at all. I appreciate
I'm not
that.
giving him any ammunition for anything.
Nope. Sweet as pie.
Well, and then kind of bows his head for the first time, like in an actual genuine like gesture of kind of respect, and then turns around and walks a little slower, not quite as like so distant to like show that he belongs here and you do not. Yeah.
I'll just keep following him down the hallway. Like, I want to get this over with. It's that I think Hannar got to the edge of anxiety, and then you get to that certain point where you're like, I just got to jump in the ocean.
Yeah.
Like, just, I've gotten to the end of the pier. I got to figure this out. Like, let's go.
When you look down at the ring, Liriel, it's very fine gold, and there's some silver in the top of it that is some dwarvish ruins. It obviously says something, and it actually says her name.
Oh,
So, yeah, it's like one of those things like a kind of spoiled rich girl might have.
Yeah.
It's like fine quality, it's good, but like, yeah, so, but that's what it is, so.
Aerlind walks up next to Hannar and just kind of smiles and in Sindarin into the breach.
Yeah, okay. No. I was debating whether Hannar would reply in Sindarin or not. He will. Indeed. Hopefully, this goes as well as the visit to the forge.
We're with you either way.
At the very least, my mother will be happy to see us.
Wonderful.
How far that goes, we'll have to see. But
Now, Hannar, you realize that your brother has led you to the more formal rooms of the home.
sure, not the family room, but
not
the
the-
formal living room.
Exactly. Like the formal sitting room type thing. So yeah, you go in and there is everything is like carved out of the mountainside, it seems, or if it's not actually carved out of the mountainside, it looks like it's carved out of the mountainside. So it was a meticulously planned room because literally all the furniture was carved into it as they went. On the far side of the room, this is also, they do have like their pinpoint of actual sunlight in this room too. That is then kind of spread about by the set of mirrors that then kind of spread the light. It almost looks like a decoration where like the light comes down. There's one beam kind of in the middle of the room, and then there's a couple beams that are reflected straight at different points that then have smaller mirrors that then spread that light out. So during the day, and it's probably around midday now, it's bright. It almost looks like small, like very fine, thin like pieces of cloth. Like the light is so like consolidated and so bright in those things, in those kind of beams. And it kind of bounces around the different colors of the rock. And then on all the sitting, there's like fine cushions and beautiful fabrics. So it's all very comfortable, even though it's like literally stone. And then on the far side of the room, there's this beautiful dwarven helm that is sitting on a bit of a pedestal. And it is not the work that you've seen. And this is, Hannar, you know, like the helm of like your great great grandfather, who is also an adventurer. And it's sitting there and it looks like this because I have one, so I might as well bring it.
So cool.
That's awesome.
Yes. So it is a full-faced helm. So it has like intricate designs, and it's a rougher hewn armor than the work that you saw at in their forge, and it has like a full face with like the nose, and it's like an actual carved face that covers the face. And it has a beard. This one doesn't have a beard, but the one obviously has to have a beard.
Well, of course. Wouldn't be a dwarf if it didn't.
Exactly. So it's sitting on the pedestal, and it has its own little beam of light going just towards it too. So, and yeah, just beautiful, stunning room. Hannar, what is like your memory of this room? Like, I'm thinking like, I don't know. I remember my grandmother's house, and we had like the formal sitting area that we never used except like Christmas.
Yeah.
I was so that's kind of what I'm
like,
thinking of.
it's
Yeah.
for sure like the Yule room.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, at that time of year, they bring in like boughs off the trees outside and decorate the room with that. And I think when like Hannar also has the memory of like listening at the door when important other dwarves came. So they would be in there having a meeting about whatever, forging something for the city or for the mayor or for, you know, for a talented warrior that wants something more than just functional and wants something, you know, decorative or fancy, or retirement gifts, you know, as dwarves get older, and they probably have a tradition of giving some finely crafted thing. So Hannar probably spent a lot of time growing up, like after the doors closed and people went in, like Hannar was right there listening, just to try and find out what's important,
Right.
like what's big in this world, that kind of curiosity. So I think most of his memories of the room are from just outside the room, more than in here. And I think he's probably a little jazzed to be the important person that has come to this room.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
So-
that makes perfect sense. When you walk in, your brother kind of stops and he turns very formally. I will tell my father that you've come. That's the first time. And then he finally kind of like looks at your face, Hannar. Having you like in the home again, like has sort of softened him a little bit. And he looks a little bit concerned and then just like doesn't say anything and kind of.
I mean, I think he probably was right there with me at the door listening sometimes.
100%. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Before kind of the competitiveness like
Yeah.
came in, like there's a lot of really strong memories for him here too with you. And he nods and like walks off to like a not completely hidden, but like you didn't notice it because it's so finely carved. And you're like, oh, there's a door there. And three of you are alone kind of for the first time.
I think I'd probably walk over and pour everyone a drink. Like,
Oh, thank you.
there has to be some kind of
Yeah, there absolutely.
Yeah.
dwarven bar cart
Yes.
in here. So
Not a card. I mean, it's carved into the wall.
sure, but
Yeah.
descriptively,
Yes,
I mean, yeah.
absolutely.
On the side of the room, there's a shelf more than that. Or it may even be a cart that is carved of stone
Oh,
So-
and fits back into where it came out of.
Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Aerlind looks at even the cup, I'm sure, is just absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful. Everything in your life is so beautifully made.
They have. My father has provided a wonderful life for my family.
Clearly.
But the thing I found most interesting is the fact that there are so many beautiful things I've seen after I left.
This does rival many, though.
Indeed. But it's wonderful to see the differences.
I agree.
Kind of at the end of that conversation, you hear like a kind of a like clicking sound. And it's like at the doorway. Like very suddenly all of a sudden there's like a little bit of a and very much gives the impression of like and you see not an old dwarf, but just definitely like second half of life dwarf standing there with a bit of a he's got a cane there, but he's not leaning on it for like support. He's tapped it on the ground to like inform you he's here. You do see that his right arm is in a bit of a sling. Maybe bows his head. Says, "It's me," which means welcome.
Aerlind bows normal deeply, not gratuitously.
And the family resemblance is almost uncanny. He looks so much like Hannar. Like you feel like you're peering into Hannar's future a little bit. Like even like the way Hannar like braids his beard, like this is obviously where he learned that. And different things that you notice because you've spent so much time with Hannar, like how he leans against things when he's tired, like the kind of cricket smile he gets when something's funny, but he's not gonna laugh out loud. Like all these little things just are like the reflection of what he obviously learned looking at this man. He says, "I am Bruni Hammerheart, son of Hannar. I make you welcome in my home, and thank you for bringing my son home." He's not talking to you, Hannar. He is addressing the elves.
And I give a bow and I say, I am Liriel of Rivendell, and I am deeply honored to meet the family of such a brave and honorable man.
There's like stone face, but for just a moment in his eyes, just like a little bit of widening in his eyes, like a little surprise. Like, this is off
That
you.
was deliberate.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like, he bows his head. I mean, Dwarvish, he says, "You're made welcome into my home, Liriel of Rivendell." And at the speaking of Rivendell, he also, like, his eyes are a little wide. And then he's like, a little wider. But, like, still, like, it's only your
Stone
elvish
face,
eyes that, like, are able to detect such tiny movements because he's very stone-faced. And you probably notice it too, Hannar, just because you know his face so well.
Sure.
But any stranger would think he didn't move at all.
I think a key difference between when I was here last and now is that his eyebrows have grown into full
Super
angry
bushy.
caterpillars.
Yeah.
Like,
Total
just-
bushy.
Scorsese
Yeah.
bros.
Yeah.
yeah.
And a lot more, like, white.
Aw.
You're
Sure.
also seeing, like, just the difference there.
I'm Aerlind of Mithlond, and he bows extremely low this time. And it is an honor to be among such a fine craftsman and a place of such beautiful craft.
It's not what the the compliment he was expecting, but you were made welcome in my home, Aerlind of Mithlond. He, like, there's a slight hesitation, and he's like, what does he say? One who appreciates the art of creation. Which also is still in Dwarvish,
Yep.
but you can tell it's a compliment just by
Yeah.
the way he says it. He does not have the cold vibe his son Droni had. There's, like, a warmth. It's almost like he's like a forge himself, I guess is the best way to describe that. The outside is solid and hard, but there's a definite like, purpose and warmth inside.
I think unintentionally, Aerlind sees a measure of Círdan in him.
Similar vibes, like older, like, expert craftsperson who wants to pass down their ability and knowledge to those who follow, and has clear purpose. And while Círdan is working towards all of his people, like
This is the dwarven version
of
of that.
well, and Bruni is very, like, driven for his family. Like, he appreciates all dwarves, but, like,
Sure.
his family is his purpose. So yeah, very similar vibes there.
Yeah.
And then only after that does he then turn and looks at Hannar and just, like, pauses for a moment. I welcome you back into our home, my son. And he kind of, you just feel, like, the appraising gaze
Sure.
as he looks over all the bits of your armor and expertly notices, like, what are very clear battle damage in different parts, and, like, is taking in the very different look, and also that you've clearly been using it for the intended purpose of armor, not just, like,
Yeah.
and not quite sure what to make of it. There's just a little bit of, like, hesitancy and a little bit of respect in his eyes, but also, like, not quite enough to get rid of, like, the deep-seated disappointment that sort of, like, seems to permeate everything you do with him.
Sure. Thank you, Father. I apologize for taking so long to return. But it took quite a while to find a purpose that fit my skills. And it wasn't until the last several years that I learned of some of the things in the world that are a danger to us all. And I have spent much of the last 2 years traveling about and dealing with dangers of the dark with my companions and other companions that are not with us. But I have finally found a way to help contribute.
It's not quite a look of approval, but just of nodding and accepting new information.
Oh, and I have brought and he reaches into, because I think he's probably has his multicolored coat that he wears, but it's not on. It's just draped over his shoulder. But he reaches inside and he probably pulls out one of the bottles of that elven wine that Kierden gave us,
Okay.
because Hannar would totally have taken some.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
For sure.
and he pulls it out and is probably like, I have brought home a delight that I was lucky enough to sample in Mithlond, in the home of Aerlind's teacher and the lord of the city.
At that, he looks a little impressed. Been chilling with the elven lord of a city. It's been fine. He gave me some wine for you here.
And indeed, the only elf I've seen in all my travels that sports at least somewhat of a beard.
At that, he looks almost like that, like a surprised face, like an elf with a beard.
And in all of his years, he'd never thought to wear a bag to sleep. He would wake in the morning and have to brush and brush. A nightmare.
You see, like, for a moment, like, the grin and that kind of, like, pops across Bruni's face is, like, exactly like Hannar's face. And he kind of, like, collects himself. Well, it seems you should pour some of that for us and tell me more of this purpose you've been seeking. And he goes and he sits down. Then, like, at that same moment, he's sitting down, you're, like, pouring the wine for everyone. There's cups and stuff on the same little cart you were at. There's, like, this flurry of activity, like, as much as your father is, like, the stone of a forge, your mother is, like, the dancing flame of, like, just a bonfire. Like, suddenly there's, like, this flurry of different fabrics. I heard Hannar was home. Is Hannar home? Hannar! And she, like, clasps her hands and, like, runs over to you and just, like, throws her arms around you. My boy, it has been so long. How dare you not come back for so long? I am so glad to see you. And she even, like, plants a big kiss on your cheek.
Oh, sure. Yes, I apologize for how long I've been away. I was just settling in to tell, and he turns and pours another glass and hands it.
Why are you in the... And then she, like, then turns and is like, oh, we have guests. And then it's like, whew, and, like, back into, like, I am the respected wife of this, very rich man. Welcome to our home. I apologize. I was not made aware of your presence. And she, like, bows deeply and, like, glances over. And you see the little niece that you saw before.
Cute.
Standing there, like, I didn't do anything. And she, like, disappears.
Microphone on.
Yes. Welcome.
Mother, these are my traveling companions that have been with me on the road for many months. We've come here as a place to stop and rest on our journey north, to continue our fight against darker things that exist in the world.
And she's the first person, like, when Hannar says something like that, she does not look surprised. Because Hannar's kind of been in touch with her, like...
Sure.
Yeah.
Mom knows.
Yeah. She looks worried, but, she... Well, I am glad that you've all made it here and are safe. You're welcome in my home. And she gives off, like, big mom energy, even though she's probably, like, a fraction of both of your ages. Like, she's just treating you like one of her kids. Like, please make yourself down. I'll make sure... I will send for some food. I'm sure you're hungry. Relax. Why are you still wearing armor? We should get... And she, like, does, like, the clap thing, like... and, like, some, like, servants come in, and they're just like, whoa, like... And, like make you comfortable if you wanted to take, like, different...
Oh, Aerlind takes it all off.
Okay. They'll show you to, like, a side room where you can, like, make yourself comfortable and, like, not have to wear full armor at all times. It's like you're like, people have smoking jackets and stuff in their home. This is, like, the dwarven house armor. Like,
yeah, for real.
Yeah, it's a little more comfortable.
Aerlind takes all that stuff up and comes out in, like, a beautiful long robe that is very, like... that Mediterranean chic of
Yeah.
Mithlond, just like, I'm here, I know what I'm doing.
Then when you come back in, you can see that Droney is in the room, but like against like the far wall. Like technically he's in the room and participating. He's holding a glass of the wine, but he hasn't taken a sip of it. And he's just standing there, like very silent, like watching his father and Hannar's interactions and like watching his mom and the two of you and just like.
I think Aerlind clocks him
Mm-hmm.
and walks near him.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't walk like directly up to him like hello, but just like it's like what you would do if you were like at a party and you wanted to like quietly walk over and talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not a big party. It's not a lot of people.
No.
This is just Aerlind is thinking, I don't want to startle him.
Yeah.
And so this is the solution to that. Walks over, bows respectfully but kind of sideways. I hear that you've been in charge of that enormous anvil, and I must ask, what do you make on it?
He looks a little baffled and like he's not sure like what to say, and then armor.
Of what sort?
And then he looks surprised that you know enough about armor to like be specific with him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my specialty is like intricate like helms and such things. The more specific things, scabbards. I do like making swords and axes. Those are my favorites, but generally my siblings can take that work a little bit more. Having a scabbard that fits a sword is actually, you know, most people don't understand, like it's much more complicated to craft out of metal than even the sword is.
Absolutely, it has to fit the shaft perfectly. You can't have it drag across the blade.
Precisely. You're like surprised. Like, well, yes. You are a crafter? Are you a smith? He looks like he says that like, but nah, he knows you're not. Like just from your physique.
I'm a shipwright.
Oh. But on the ocean?
Yes.
You're very brave.
Oh, it isn't bravery. I don't go on them very often.
I wouldn't either. Makes me feel very unsturdy thinking of not having ground beneath my feet.
Well, it's no different than wearing armor and going into a fight.
No, I still have ground beneath my feet at that moment.
But you still have to believe in what you are using.
I hadn't thought of it that way. I suppose as a shipwright it is very similar. Interesting. And there's like, he kind of like continues that.
Yeah, they just kind of continue, and
Yeah.
Aerlin's just like, no, I got you.
Yeah.
I see you.
Definitely still kind of like shop talk, but like safe level of shop talk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Hannah's mother has kind of Janura has kind of like engaged you in conversation a little bit, Liriel. So I don't want to assume. It seems that you are a bit older than the other people in Hannar's traveling group.
I just kind of laugh a little bit. Yes, I am. I was originally sent to aid them on their adventure, and I just liked them so much, I decided to join them for a while.
That is wonderful. Who were you sent by?
Lord Aerlind of Rivendell.
Oh,
I'm trying not to sound like it's a flex.
But it's a flex no matter how you shape
yeah.
this.
There's no like chill way to say, hey, I'm Buzz with Lord Elrond, and he just sends me to hang out with people. It's fine.
Yeah, like one of those famous elves in Middle Earth. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's fine. So like her eyebrows like shoot up, very surprised. Well, I was aware that Hannar had been in Rivendell. I hadn't known many of the specifics. He was strangely vague about the purpose of that visit, but I'm glad that he made a good impression and that you decided to stay with him and his friends.
He's a lovely person.
He really is, isn't he?
He genuinely is.
Oh, she kind of like pulls you a little close, like, I always knew that he would find his path and his purpose. And it's like when you're digging for ore. Sometimes you dig in the wrong direction for quite some time, no matter what the stone singers say. And you find nothing. And then you try another direction and you find your Mithril. Well, we don't find Mithril here, but you know what I mean.
Oh, yes.
And it's just, I knew he would find his way. He's such a good boy. And then she like sits up and like, I wasn't talking about you, Hannar. It's like the whole.
I just giggle at he's such a good boy.
Yeah,
he's a grown man.
We're also not all here obtusely kind of talking about you, Hannar. That's fine.
Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
yeah,
It's delightful.
Yeah, it's everyone's favorite experience.
yeah.
Yeah, it is totally the like, I brought home some friends from college, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Totally.
And we're going, can you show us all the photo albums?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I just start complimenting the house and say, "Oh, I'm sure this is your hand in the decoration," and blah blah blah. And I'm giving her some.
Yes, well, my husband's very good with all the stone, but all the lighting is mine. And also all the drapery. So I'm a bit of a seamstress myself. I don't do it often anymore, but I do weave often. It's something I do really enjoy. The big one with Ulmo and Manway, like that one in the hallway, that was me.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, those were
very proud of that one.
stunning. Stunning.
Yes, I'm very partial to that one. I'm thinking of doing a mirrored one, but I haven't quite picked which Velar I would do.
I love her.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's very much like the folksy artist. Like, if she wasn't living in this wild mansion, she would probably be living in like some artist commune somewhere. Like the one dwarf who focuses on like the soft arts of things.
Good for her.
Yeah, absolutely. She lives her best life.
Yeah.
And like you can see where Hannar got like his prevalence to like not be a stereotypical dwarf. Like there's obviously like a bit of this familial like rebel streak that's being passed down that you also kind of saw on his niece. So yeah. So this is all kind of happening. And you've noticed, Hannar, that like your mom kind of did this on purpose. Like she did the like Aerlind went and talked to your brother, like, but your mom is kind of like playing soft blockade to give you and your dad a little bit of a bubble to talk in without like the pressure of other people around. So she's like talking and she like walks you over to the fancy helm and is like, well, like this is the blah, 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 just stuff about it. This is from my great-great-great-grandfather, Bravith, who was the orc slayer, and blah, 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 like all these things about it.
And I said, I think I've heard of Bravith the Orc Slayer.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I've actually heard of Elrond of Rivendell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she's very proud that she knows the name of an elf. And so, yeah, that's kind of like what's happened. So, Hannar, you found yourself either sitting or standing like next to your father, sipping this elven wine.
I think we're both sitting in like mid-century modern looking armchairs, right? Like with the very high arms.
Yeah.
So you kind of sit it and you have to be in this position.
Are placed in it.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah.
Like this.
I am
Like
hovering.
Yeah.
Uh,
All carved out of stone, but like just luscious pillows and
yeah.
like fabrics everywhere. So they feel very soft, even though they're stone. They're just carved into the freaking wall.
But I think I probably. Well, the first thing I'd say is like, are you well? Are you improving? I heard of an accident.
Oh, yes, I'm fine. Was the damnedest thing. Was using the forge behind the great anvil and just flared up for some reason. I was pulling on the bellows and it snapped back and yanked my arm badly. And nothing got broken, just pulled a few things that don't seem to be healing like they used to.
Well, I'm glad you're well enough.
Yes, the healer said to keep it still, and it's my hammer arm. So I've been sitting about, watching your mother weave. Very good at it, but it's very repetitive.
Indeed. The clack of a shuttle is not the hammer of a forge.
Indeed. The songs work pretty well, we've discovered, though.
Oh.
The rhythmic songs. Although she gets a bit tired of them after a bit. She has her own songs, you know. I mean, you know. You used to sing them with her.
Indeed. But I have fallen a bit into this life of fighting. When I first left, as you know, my goal was to see the world and to make my own way, which I did for years. But the last several, I have found that there are things out there that we need to fight against. And for whatever I can do about it, I will continue to endeavor to stop these dark things from hurting people. Whether they be elf or dwarf or human or hobbit, they all need some protection.
He looks like a bit troubled for a moment. You never were happy in one place, Hannar. Even as a young child. Kept you so close, but inevitably you'd be running about the city. Climbed on everything. Yeah.
There's a reason we're friends.
Yeah. And I could never get you to stay and pay attention. Even if it was something you were very interested in, you always wanted to see what was next or where it came from. You were never happy just appreciating a thing as it was. I used to think it was a great weakness. He kind of like looks up towards the elves in the room. It seems you are now of a great company. And he looks at your armor. Though your armor is not of a fashion I would generally make. And you hear the or wear at the end of that sentence that he does not say. I can see that it has been worn in many battles, and that you do not exaggerate when you say you have faced the darkness. For only foes of terrible power could do such things to such fine metalwork. He pauses for a minute and he kind of like looks up at where your mom is now, like talking with Liriel, and like they're looking at the helmet. Our ancestor Brevith, I think perhaps had a soul like yours. Never one to stay in his caverns that he called home. He went out and faced and found problems to solve. There is honor in... There's a reason that we have his helm on display here. For, well, I can make things that protect people. You yourself are acting as their armor. And that is something that I cannot help but respect, my son. And he like raises his glass of elven wine. Welcome home. I have missed you.
Thank you.
He takes a sip and tries to be polite about the taste.
Oh, it's good. Hannar says that. I think he probably, like, if he was sitting closer, he probably would have thrown an elbow, like,
Yeah.
oh, come on. I know, but it's delicious.
It's very good. It's very flowery.
True. I can't argue that.
But you
But
seem to like a lot of elvish things right now. You aren't going to bring home an elvish wife, are you?
no.
Oh. I mean, could. He kind of like looks off like and gives like the
Hobbit
that would
child.
be very good looking, like
Yeah.
like kind of the fine looking elf, like kind of a joke to you.
Yeah.
No. No. I have not found anyone like that in my travels.
That's fine. You have plenty of time. You're still very young, my son.
But I have taken it upon myself to care for a young one.
Indeed, you have a ward.
Yes, he stays with a close friend down in the Shire while I travel and do my work.
He looks somewhat alarmed. Do not let your mother know that she has a bit of a grandchild that is not being raised in this house.
I understand. I found my way into a bit of the culture of the Shire. They all know me as the Fire Dwarf, believe it or not.
Did you raise their towns? Or...
No, they,
Very logical.
they're kind people. No, I was attempting to warn them of possible fires.
Oh, I see.
And in
It
fact,
is a humorous nickname of a sort.
yes, just outside of their town, we fought and defeated some creatures that burned from within, like an ember. And these creatures were causing wildfires near their villages. So I tried to warn them ahead of time in case we couldn't find these creatures. But fortunately, we did.
Impressive. I've heard stories and legends of creatures that were made of fire itself. It seems like there is much evil still in the world that we thought was long gone. That means a lot to a dwarf. He kind of looks around like, I hope there's no Balrogs. Like, it's kind of like the vibe.
That we seem to find quite a few things that should be gone, and we've helped make quite a few of them gone. But there's more, and in fact, that's why we're here. We're on our way north. We've heard rumor of forgive me, I forget the name of the thing.
Oh yeah.
The terror of Agmar.
The Terror of Angmar to the north. Some sort of a large beast that has terrorized the hills and the foothills of the mountains north of here.
Oh, yes. That's. There are always some who claim that they've seen it or that it has taken away some, but son, I doubt you not about the ember beasts that you did fight, but the terror of Angmar is a children's story. We used to frighten you with it to get you to go to bed on time.
Well, I will tell you, it is not considered a children's story by, I think Hannar probably gives a title, even though he doesn't really have one, but by the General of the Elves of Rivendell.
Indeed.
It is from his investigations that we have pursued this lead.
That is... He literally, like, for one of the first times in your life, Hannar, like, does not know what to say. Like, has lost words. So, and you remember the stories, like you kind of, like, you didn't, like, quite make the connection. They probably stopped when you got, like, old enough to call them on it, like.
Sure.
But you're like, oh, like.
Like, don't go running around outside.
Yeah, it was like the equivalent of the boogeyman, kind of. But, like, you see, like, legit fear and concern, and, like, the stories obviously are bad. Like, if like, this is his reaction to it. If even, why does the general not send an army to fight such a creature?
Well, it appears there are sparks, like thrown off of an anvil, that have landed all over Middle-earth. And he has busied himself with investigating which ones are true and which ones are agents of darkness and which ones are mere legend and fairy tale of local folk. But there are far too many to mass an army, and they're far too spread out.
So does he fear that these sparks will set fire and destroy us all?
I believe so. I believe if people don't begin the work of dousing these embers, then we will find ourselves standing amongst a roaring flame.
He puts his hand on her shoulder. I'm glad that we have such a stout heart and strong arms as yours to protect us, my son.
I will do all I can.
I have no doubt of that. And he, like, hesitates and, like, I'm sorry that for so long I could not see you follow any path but mine.
Oh, I understand. You carved such a wide path that it was very difficult to find another. But in a way, I'm glad that my talents lied not like yours. But please tell, and I nod over at my brother, like, that I'm not trying to come back and steal his place at the forge. He won't believe me if I say it, but he'll believe you.
Oh, Hannar. And he looks at you almost like you're a little kid again. Droney isn't afraid that you're going to come back. He's still inside the little boy that followed you everywhere. He's afraid that you won't come back.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't know how to tell you that. He's been so angry for so long. He kind of looks over at him a little bit sadly. You can see it in his work, you do. His fine armor and beautiful weapons. They may surpass my own someday. But his frustration comes through in every piece. Just a bit of sharp edges where it could be smoothed. Not a flaw, but his feelings forged in metal. Stunning and beautiful of their own, but also, he kind of shrugs again, lost for words. I don't know how to make it right between the two of you, and I know it is my fault that it is as it is.
I'm also the one that left, so I'll find a way to talk to him.
That would be best. May not be something that can be mended before you leave, but it could perhaps be a start.
If I'm to keep the path of an adventurer, I'll likely need someone to keep making me armor.
he would be a fine choice. And then he does the like side eye at all your elvish designs. And just like doesn't say anything else about the armor.
Nice.
Like a whole like head to toe side eye.
I think after that though, Hannar just goes full into meeting Celebrimbor. Like,
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, while that's going on, Aerlind has been showing Droney the horn and like beautiful other crafts pieces. He's covered in them.
Yeah. And yeah, so I know we're over time, so we're going to pause there. We'll start next week with Runa being escorted back into your home with interesting news. And then from there, figuring out what we're going to do and then making our way possibly to the mines.
sounds good.
All right.
Bear man.
All right. I can't believe that flew by for me. I don't know about all of you.
So
It was like-
good.
It went
I
very
looked at it. I
fast.
was like, oh my gosh, it's 10:13. We have to stop.
Yep. It was very good.
Excellent. That was amazing. Okay. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I'd like to thank our chat mods for their hard work. Thank you, James. Thank you to our amazing patrons who keep us ad-free and independent. It's because of you that we're able to play games we like and be ad-free and editorially independent, or actual playly independent. That thing is a thing.
Doing good.
Yeah. You can join their historic ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. That's also heroic, but I guess you could be historic too. It's fine.
We're historic today.
We're historic
Join now,
today.
and someday it's history.
Story. Very good. And let's go ahead and go around the table and reintroduce ourselves. Let's start with Dave.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kadave. Yeah, that went way better than I thought it was going to, and I'm excited about it. Belated Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Oh yeah,
So,
timely episode.
yeah,
Look at
Oh
that.
yeah. Hey.
Totally planned.
Absolutely.
but yeah, excited to see what Runa was doing.
Afraid.
Excited
Afraid to
and
see what
afraid.
we're doing.
Yeah. It's just next episode starts with some runner coming down the street like something horrible's happened on Jewelers Row. Like, oh golly.
Like, oh no.
Yeah,
We know
we'll
who
find
that
out. We'll
is.
find out. Anyway, I'll see y'all next week. I'm excited.
I'm Michelle. You can find me on the socials at Mishulu. You can also listen to me on the 12-Sided Stories podcast. And you can find my music if you subscribe to the Plate Mail Games catalog through BattleBards.
Woo!
And I'm Kai. You can find me on all social media platforms as Estelle of Imladris. We just dropped a new episode of my podcast from the Lore Brewery, Far, Far Away 5e Fairy Tale Adventure, where we take the Pied Piper back to Hamlin. It's not good. Doesn't go well. And then you can find me on Monday next week for the finale of Mysteries of Ravenswood over on Queen's Court Games, playing Kids on Brooms, where we are celebrating Pride by being a bunch of trans kids at a wizard school. And then you can find me on this Saturday for the premiere episode of Campaign 2 of Transplanter RPGs, The Chaos Protocol. We are I'm going to get the spiel right this time, a all transgender, people of color-led dark fantasy ttrpg show set in an original, non-colonial, anti-Orialist multiverse. And that is at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Twitch, where we are kicking off our new campaign where we will be exploring all kinds of multiverses, and with every new universe that we enter, we will be also obeying the laws of that universe by playing different tabletop systems. So our first one is for the Wild Sea. It's going to be really fun.
Yes. And I'm Kimi. I've been your Loremaster. You can find the games that I make at goldenlassogames.com. You can find me everywhere at Golden Lasso Girl or Golden Lasso RPGs or happyjacksrpg. I go by all those names everywhere on social media. I am here on Mondays for 2 more weeks, which seems so, I know. Wow. 2 weeks, exactly. And I'm here every advice show. We're actually talking about maybe switching the days of the advice show, but look up on the schedule when you're listening to this when the advice show is, and I will be there most of the time, like 90 98.9% of the time. I just made up that number. But yeah, and thank you so much for going on this amazing journey with us. I've really loved like exploring Hannar's home tonight. It's been super
it was
great.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you all so much, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.